Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get going here for game one. And let me tell you, in all honesty, as it is Wednesday, June 4th, that if you saw the opening in between the TNT side that they just played alongside Kenny Albert and Eddie Olczyk, that was nothing but class, regality, loyalty, and gentlemanty of the sport. That was a pretty good opening there for TNT. They should give themselves a salute. Head coached by Paul Maurice are the Florida Panthers. It's Alex Barkov, Evan Rodriguez, Sam Reinhart, Gustav Forsling, Aaron Ekblad, Sam Bennett, Carter Verhaeghe, Matthew Tkachuk, Niko Mikkola, and Seth Jones. Anton Lundell, A2 Listerine, Brad Marchand, Tomas Nosek, Jesper Boquist, Jonah Gadjevich. AJ Greer looks like he's going to miss this game, so they're going to slide in Jesper Boquist on the back end side of the fourth line with Nate Schmidt and Dmitry Kulikov. Sergei Bobrovsky will be the goaltender of record per usual. For Chris Knobloch, it's the Edmonton Oilers. They're going to have home ice advantage this time around. Connor McDavid, RNH, Corey Perry with Matthias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard, Leon Draisaitl, Evander Kane, Kasperi Kapanen with Darnell Nurse, Brett Kulak, Adam Enrique, Jeff Skinner, Trent Frederick, Matthias Janmark with Sully Putt-Colson, Connor Brown with Jake Wallman and John Klingberg, Stuart Skinner going to get the start inside the crease. Alec, we get to do this again. It's my fourth Stanley Cup Finals, about 2.5 years with you. I'm privileged to be joined with you once again. This time it is for a rematch. Once again, one more time between Florida and Edmonton for all of the marbles. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It is. We're not anticipating this to be one-sided, teeter-tottering between these two teams. Again, we're expecting this to be more close. This will be more of the closest that we can get to the Winnipeg-St. Louis series in the first round, as Wayne Gretzky noted in the open for the NHL on TNT. These two are the most physical teams that are left on the leaderboards in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and this is why they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. The Oilers, they know a sense that the grit and the physicality, that's what's needed to get here all the way to the Stanley Cup final. A hybrid sense of east-west and north-south hockey. McDavid and Draisaitl can play both. The loss of Zach Hyman does sting, but Matthias Ekholm coming back is going to be huge. And we know the measure of revenge that is noted, as we discussed in the preview. The difference between Gretzky and Crosby, the way that they did it, compared to what McDavid's trying to do. Gretzky and Crosby were in their early 20s, and their cup windows with their respective teams were just opening. McDavid and the Oilers this time around, they have their last best shot with this core. And we know the Panthers, they're going for a potential dynasty. The Oilers have the added sense of desperation. We know that's there for them. And we know we can never underestimate a team that is desperate for the taste of success.
No, we can't. And I think, Alec, as we talked about this time, home ice advantage could play the key difference for Edmonton this time around. They've gotten the experience from last year. They know what it takes. We talk about that viral quote from Connor McDavid at the end of it. They're going through the player introductions now, and we've already seen the Stanley Cup on its pedestal, the most beautiful trophy in all of sports.
It is, bar none, the best trophy that can ever be won in any of the four sports in North America. It's why you play the games. It's not played on paper, but it's why they all dedicate themselves to sacrifices that they made. After the Oilers lost the 1983 finals, Wayne Gretzky and company walked down the Islanders' locker room celebrations. They focused more on the ice bags that the Islanders put on their various injuries than the post-game festivities. That's when they knew the sacrifices and the celebration, the sacrifice and the dedication it takes to winning a Stanley Cup.
We're getting a look fittingly as you've gone through that, Alec, of Corey Perry as the first one being introduced. He's been in a lot of these. Yes, he's got one with the Anaheim Ducks. Again, you mentioned he's not going to retire after this year. Likely, in all likelihood, I would say 99.9%, he's going to go back with the Edmonton Oilers. We do have some low-key signings that we can talk about in the first intermission, as well as some of the off-season news has already gotten underway for the teams that are not participating tonight. But you got the patch just above the right of the C of Connor McDavid. The same thing on the other side for the Cats as we continue to get through the players' introductions at Rogers Place. Again, you talk about it in the tandem of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bouchard. I know they don't have a Stanley Cup yet to their credit, Alec, but when you think about it in the annals of history, I would have to imagine a trifecta of two top centers and a defenseman rivals some of the very best that we've seen.
In terms of playoff performances, we'd be surprised to believe that Evan Bouchard is just right behind Bobby Orr in points per game among defensemen all time in the playoffs. We know McDavid, Draisaitl, all-time playoff performers, rivaling that of Gretzky, Lemieux, Crosby. We think of all the legends that are thrown out there. They're defying expectations beyond belief.
We want the cup chance as we're going to start to get to the anthems here at Rogers. It's kind of chilling considering because you remember that quote last year where Zach Hyman unfortunately not going to be playing in this series, but Alec, he said, we're going to get back here. We're going to find a way to have success, and they've made it past this point. In all honesty, I will talk about Florida in a moment, but I want to lean into Edmonton a little bit more. You know what? Everything in between the injuries, yeah, these guys have missed some time between McDavid and Draisaitl, and I'm not saying the path that they've gone through has been easy, Alec, although they've made it look easy. But honestly, for the most part, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the Edmonton Oilers have been able to keep their head down throughout the regular season, just concentrate on the Stanley Cup trophy, trying to get everything and finish it off. And I think that they've had a pretty uh, I would say even series, not a lot of rocks and hurdles to have to jump through.
Not a lot, especially when you consider the Panthers' road record and the Oilers' home record. They can cancel each other out. The Panthers are 8-2 on the road. The Oilers 6-1 at home. But on the road, I feel there's a major difference in such. The Oilers may be 6-3 on the road this postseason. That record may be deceiving because two of those losses were the first two games that they played in this year's playoffs. They're 6-1 ever since. The Panthers, meanwhile, just 4-3 at home.
Yeah, they're going to have to improve on that when we get closer to Monday. That will be when game three gets played again. We got today on the Wednesday side, and then Friday, again, the NBA Finals will be mixed in that as well on Saturday for game two. But we do not have a weekend game in this series as far as going past game two. Again, that'll be on Friday. So it's going to be a little bit of withdrawals, I would imagine, for both of us, Alec. But as we get to the rest of the anthems here, I'm going to have you lead it off, and then I'll go through the second part of the third, and you'll close if that's all right with you. But I do want to mention one last thing. We've said a lot of nice stuff about Edmonton, and that's for sure because their team is better than last year. But the same thing can be said about the Florida Panthers. When I talk about Lustarin and Lundell and Marchand, Alec, I'm not just saying they're the best third line because they're the best that's left. They're the best in the business. They've been able to kind of close everything down and score. Marchand's fit like a glove. And this Florida Panthers team, I know the Edmonton Oilers too, but they're relatively healthy, all things considered. And I don't think, and we're not saying this, but the Florida Panthers cannot be considered a cakewalk for the Edmonton Oilers because if that's the case, this will be a quick series.
No, at any parts, the Florida Panthers, we talk of potential dynasty status. We think of them, the Red Wings of the 2000s and the 1990s, and the Islanders dynasty of the 80s. The Red Wings were not as physical as the Panthers, but they were every bit as smothering as them. A better comparison for the current Panthers is the Islander dynasty. They have a mix of talent and the physicality to back that up.
So we just got the camera shot of the F1 bombers going across. Again, that's what makes you feel safe when you get in these big festivities. You got all the security in the world. You got all the publicity, a big-time matchup. We're getting the goaltender introductions now on the side of the crease. Big Bob, 12-5, 2-11, 9-12, 3 shutouts, 8-2, 2-12, 9-14 on the road. He's been the best in the business on that side. Stuart Skinner, a little bit mercurial, but he's been very hot of late. It was a big reason why the Dallas Stars got shut down. How about a 6-1, 141, 944, and 3 shutouts in his last 7 games? Alec, I might be a little bit ahead of you, but get set, take it away. I'll back you up from this first.
This is the moment that we've all been waiting for. This is a time to settle the stakes. It's time to settle the Stanley Cup Final. This is game 1 here at Edmonton at Rogers Place. And immediately the Oilers on the attack. Corey Perry very quickly firing one off of Sergei Bobrovsky. And the Oilers disrupt the Panthers' counterattack. So Edmonton out of the gates. They're immediately jumping onto the attack. Sam Reinhart got in the way of Evan Bouchard and takes it away. Runner-up on the Selke Trophy voting to lively Aleksander Barkov, as that deflection was wide from Barkov himself. The 2025 Selke Trophy winner taking the reins of perennial Selke Trophy front-runner from Patrice Bergeron in front Barkov. And there was a stick in the way.
We're going to get a play by high stick, as Alec mentioned. 40 seconds had expired. I know we didn't mention this a lot in the preview show, but Alec, I feel like I have to punch this button. Sometimes you get the offensive zone time that can be with an extent of a minute 20 between both of these teams. I want to see who blocks shots better. Statistically, that favors the Edmonton Oilers, but you might have to keep these guys on the outside when you get gassed and try to block that middle of the slot.
When you think of depth scoring, too, you think of the Panthers having a statistical advantage, but most of the depth scoring from the bottom six comes to their third line. The Oilers have balanced scoring for both their third and fourth lines because not a lot of scoring comes from the Panthers' fourth line. They're more of the grit and grind type role. Verhaeghe almost had that one on the silver platter. Kapanen gets this one out. Their side is this one baseball batted up. The Oilers clear it out again. Takes for the puck in the near corner. No icing, as it was waved off with the Oilers getting there first. Kapanen also joining there. Draisaitl in pursuit. Oilers putting up McDavid and Draisaitl as opposed to last year when Draisaitl was hurt. Saving arena loose. Score! Draisaitl! Get the party started here in the final.
Well, you can't leave number 29 all alone near the right side dot. Again, it was a third rebound. He's completely unmarked, and that sends this crowd in a frenzy.
Unmarked and a wide open net. Immediately, the Oilers, they have their revenge on their minds. They know that last year was more of a bitter defeat than a learning experience. And it all began with slapper from the left circle. Draisaitl left unchecked at bottom of the right circle. That's his office job.
Jake Wallman, it's a rolling puck a couple of times. Evander Kane gets a little bit of positioning there on Forsling, closes off his stick, and that leaves Draisaitl wide open to just pound it into the paint.
All three shots from the Edmonton Oilers here in the first 2 minutes. The Panthers want this right back as Skinner makes a save, and then a second one pounces on the puck to prevent a rebound chance from Anton Lundell.
I know it's low key right there, but again, Florida's happy about that shift after just getting scored on. And Skinner, he needs to make that save. He saw it in front of a bunch of traffic. He gets the hold as we get another look. But again, Evander Kane, I got to give him full marks because that's what allowed Draisaitl to be wide open there.
Yeah, he set up the screen and tried to draw the penalty on Gustav Forsling. None was called. And we say 1-0 here. Oilers 5-on-5. Edmonton gets it away. Kulikov does keep it. Wide the goal. Towards the near corner. Collected by Lustarin. Back around for Lundell. Lundell passes it back for Kulikov. 4 lefties on the back of the defense. Long shot went wide. Lustarin, wrap-around drive. Look to the slot, and Skinner will cover it up.
Kasperi Kapanen and Jake Wallman also get the assists. Alec, those are names that we talked about. Low-key underrated so far here for the Oilers. They were able to get some secondary part of that goal scoring alongside with Draisaitl. Good work.
And what a redemption that Kapanen is having with the Oilers. After an ill-fated tenure with the St. Louis Blues, he's thriving on the second line next to Draisaitl on the wing. Best role that he's had being Draisaitl's line mate.
Yes, he has. Again, we talked about the depth of the Oilers. Their defense has been good, just like Florida's. And all of that's going to need to respond on both sides. Both of these guys are going to have to be at their best if they want to lift the best trophy in all the sports.
And Howdy Boakwood was Ekblad back like he's never left the ice. Up through the middle as the Oilers re-enter. It's Kapanen. The line that scored the first goal at the finals is back out there. Tomas Nosek, who was part of the 2018 Vegas Golden Misfits club that made it to the Stanley Cup Final in their inaugural season, is out there on the fourth line side before they make a change. And it's Bouchard. Second all-time in points per game for defensemen in the playoffs, only behind the legendary Bobby Orr, who scored the winning goal in 1970 for the Boston Bruins. Their side, as this is taken up by eventually Podkolzin, it'll be Bobrovsky out to play this for Forsling. Podkolzin on the chase. Grabbed by Arvidsson, the former Nashville Predator, who was on the 2017 club. Reinhart grabs it up. Backs it up onto the far side. Evan Rodriguez, one of the Stanley Cup finalists from last year on last year's Panthers team. Arvidsson moves back up with it. He shoots this right onto Bobrovsky. He sees two Oilers coming and comes.
A little bit of push there from Ekblad and a cross check just to make sure that we're all in the game against Sully Podkolzin to get Edmonton 4-3 on the shot board. Florida had the last three, but that one's going to count as a save.
So far, so good for the Oilers as they're immediately pouncing on the attack. They have Brian Boucher in between the pipes. Ringside reporters Darren Pang and Jackie Redmond on the scene for the NHL and TNT. I know Canada does have their own broadcast with Chris Cupper, Craig Simpson, and Gene Precipe. But when we look at goals by defensemen as the NHL and TNT's profiling, Florida leads the way of 15. Edmonton gets the bulk of their 11 goals from defensemen from Bouchard. Once again, that Bouch bomb is lethal. He has 6 of the 11 goals.
Yeah, he's one of the ones that Florida's going to have to key on. But again, there's so many options that Edmonton has. That's what makes it tough, and their counter.
Including Jake Wallen, who has one of those goals. McDavid's out on the ice. Paul Maurice did a good job matching Barkov next to McDavid just to neutralize him. McDavid scored the bulk of his goals when he is now faced off against Barkov. How much of that's going to be a factor as Draisaitl is broken up from McDavid's line? He is on the second line, and Nugent-Hopkins has been excellent playing on McDavid's wing on the top line. Nugent-Hopkins can also play second line center in that case, too. For the left side, the Oilers re-enter. They've been buzzing here. Pass out in front was blocked, and the Panthers clear it out. Once again, this is the Stanley Cup Final rematch. This is the third in the last 40 years. The team with the generational superstar won the second matchup in 1984 Oilers. And this one is a hand up in the air. Was that an icing?
I think that's what we're going to get, Alec. Another stoppage here at 16-15.
And I believe that is the case as Trent Frederick just slightly lost the battle on the foot race. But 1984, Oilers beat the Islanders in the second of back-to-backs. 2009, Penguins beat the Red Wings in the second of back-to-backs. The Panthers trying to end that in this year's final.
Yeah, they're trying to do what their pretty much brother did on the other side for the Tampa Bay Lightning. If you want to talk about hockey in South Florida, 2 out of the last 3. This time, Florida's going to have to get 2 in a row because their first opening was just a team that made that Cinderella run, but they were too beat up a couple of years ago to ever really challenge Vegas.
We're going to wave off the icing as Wes McCauley overruled the linesman Scott Cherry as the Oilers get this one down the ice, played off the hand of Nate Schmidt, another member of that 2018 Vegas Golden Misfits team. Up for Kapanen, who left it behind for Draisaitl. Draisaitl takes it up. The pass doesn't work. The Panthers get this one out. 4 free shots. The Panthers have the previous free shot before the Oilers got the last shot on goal. Already it's off to an explosive start, and the Oilers trying to repeat what they did against 4 and 6 of last year to set the tone. Controlling on the back end is Draisaitl, who set this one up. Draisaitl gets tangled up by Lundell. Comes back up to the plate. Kick saved by Bobrovsky as Kane pursues it. From the far side, it'll get set on for Bouchard. Reinhart was in front. Forsling. Draisaitl got the puck. Big hit by Kane as Draisaitl got tangled up at that far corner. Barkov digging for the puck. Kapanen was there, but also was Forsling. Waiver claim from the Carolina Hurricanes, and the best one in recent memory signed, who was subsequently signed to an 8-year, $5.5 million deal. Up the far side, he's still on for Bouchard, who just gets it out. Poked up to himself by Draisaitl. Janmark tried to weave it by, and Bouchard sells it down the ice. It'll be grabbed by Kulikov, who gets out the way of one man, and another shove for the far half boards. To get down to the far corner on the Panthers. Janmark keeps it in. Onto the near side is Barbison. Sells it back for Janmark. Janmark down on his knees as he is shoved by Kulikov. Comes back for Arbison. Schmidt was there. The Panthers want to clear it out, and they will towards the penalty box doors. One for Edmonton to pick it back up. Bouchard weaves his way back in front. Pass intercepted. It'll be taken up by Sam Bennett. Bennett has only one man to beat. Bennett kicks saved by Skinner. Onto the near corners it was directed. Bouchard gets it all the way out, and on the chase, it'll be iced.
I got to be honest here with you, Alec. I got a whole heap of respect there for Evander Kane. He's going to try to play that same role that Zach Hyman did. Unfortunately, he's going to miss that year with the injury. But the big hit there, Aaron Ekblad wanted to get back into it and try to throw some fists. And that didn't work because he got cleaned up by Mr. Kane.
Yeah, Ekblad, we don't know if this series is going to be his last as a Florida Panther. And even if he and Bennett get brought back on team-friendly deals, the main concern isn't with the age that's going to transpire. It's the fact that Barkov last season was the first season he played more than 70 games in the season since 2019. And the first time that he played on a 70-plus game pace since 2021, the COVID-shortened year. Another try gets fired wide. The Oilers will try to get on the clear, and they are going to ice it again.
Yeah, this one's going to go full length of the ice there. No problems for Mikkola. Again, 1-0 is our score as we get another stoppage at 14:09. The goal was at 1:06. Draisaitl wide open from the right side from the screen from Kane. So he's had an excellent game so far. Alongside that big hit, Kasperi Kapanen and Jake Woolman get the primary and secondary assists.
And so far, the second line has been the best line for the Oilers on this game. You have to see a response here from the Panthers. Most of that production is coming in the second line as of late between Verhaeghe, Bennett, and Tkachuk. They've been dominant. They're out there on the ice right now. Can't touch up on the puck. But the near half force, Mikkola flips it down. Mikkola passes towards the far corner. He's having a bizarre domination of the Oilers in recent memory. He'll be grabbed by him over at his own zone. Edmonton finally gets it out, gets the line change that they've been desperately looking for. They've had tired guys on the ice. For the far half boards, sent up the line for Verhaeghe. Or rather, Reinhart. Sent back all the way for Skinner, collected by Rodriguez at the near half boards. The pass was intercepted, and the Oilers will start up. How is McDavid going to fare against Barkov in this rematch? McDavid gets the pick, and he gets brought down by Rodriguez on the collision. Forsling brings it up, batted down by Reinhart, who wheels one around for the near half boards. But already there was John Klingberg. Klingberg sends it, and for the near side, McDavid. Forced towards the wall by Forsling and is sticked away. Held in by Perry. Perry towards the net. It's offside, however. High stick.
Looked like Forsling. Yeah, you're right. Looked like he got hit in the face. We're going to see if they're going to call something against the Oilers. I feel like they may.
Yeah, they're gonna. That negated the chance as Perry was closing in on net. A grade A chance squandered as McDavid. Or was it McDavid? No, it was Perry. He high stick Forsling. And that's an easy call.
Yeah, he got it right in across the face. Again, he could have either got a piece of Barkov or on the other side because there was two right next to each other. And as we get set to go to break, Alec, again, I talked about this a little bit in the preview show. Let me scroll down a little bit in the notes here as far as the numbers. Power play percentage not too bad for Florida at 23.2%, but the majority of their goals is what comes from on the road, and that's where they're starting in games 1 and 2.
However, the Oilers, they fare much better on the penalty kill at home ice. So is that going to come into play here between these two and cancel each other out? The Panthers, they seem to get the most when sucking the energy out of opposing crowds. They're not called to rats for no reason.
Right. No, that's going to be interesting to watch in terms of that because, again, as you mentioned for the Oilers, penalty kill at 66%. That's got to be a lot better. Again, I talked about a little bit in the show alongside you that if they can keep the number of penalties down, I would say between 2 and 3. I don't think that 66% is going to bite them. But Corey Perry was a little bit careless there with the stick blade, and he got called at 6:53.
That's where you have to tone down the penalties on full scale because at some point it can bite. And here, if the Panthers do score, it can and certainly could bite. The question now is Stuart Skinner going to benefit off of this home crowd? It has for the past few days.
Yeah, we're going to have to continue to find that out because we know that's going to be a big story when you think about Bobrovsky and Skinner. We said it last year. It should be a big advantage. Maybe not big as much anymore, but Bobrovsky should have that lead there. But Stuart Skinner has been unbelievable of late, and you want to cut down on the self-inflicted mistakes. Now, the Panthers, I will give them full marks in the sense, yes, they gave up the first goal at 1:06, but it looks like they have rebounded. Again, it was just a rebound that they didn't get a chance to pick up. The right side dot, but this is their best first chance of the game. Barkov going to take an ozone draw, just 3.6 at home on the power play, 43% on the road.
Yeah, 12 of the 13 power play goals have come on the road, but the Oilers' penalty kill at home has been a different story. Aaron Ekblad sends it wide. Under the far half board, Seth Jones grabs it towards the right point, out of the reach of Tkachuk, and it's all the way out. They have taken away 2 shots from the Panthers, so the shot board reads 5-1. Tkachuk brings it back, and he's canceled out at the point. For the far side is Reinhart, who dropped it back for Tkachuk. Tkachuk with a long shot. That was stopped by Stuart Skinner. Jones on the hole at the left point. Grabs it for Reinhart. Back over to Jones. Trade deadline acquisition and the Brandon Montour replacement. Bouchard gets it away. He'll get this one out. Bouchard's been an underrated piece on the defensive side. For as much as offensive brilliance is, this defense has been the topic of heavy discussion, which was why he was And many can point to that being why he was left off the Four Nations face-off roster for Team Canada because of defensive deficiencies, but otherwise he has been underrated on defense. Right by McDavid, the Panthers re-enter. Over the middle, Reinhart canceled out, and the Oilers clear it down. Ever since McDavid was put on the penalty kill, the Oilers' PK has found another gear. The second units for both clubs are back out there. Nate Schmidt, towards the left side, Sam Bennett. Led up for Evan Rodriguez, brought it back up for Bennett. Was 10 goals. Bennett towards the side, Skinner blocked the pass. Back for Schmidt, towards the right point, as in a deep shot. Block of a stick, and the Oilers get this one out. Once again, we talk about the Oilers' penalty kill at home, as opposed to the Panthers' power play on the road. And this pass almost intercepted. This puck bounces towards Brad Marchand, not all the way out, and it's mishandled. The Oilers could have a chance here. 2-on-1, the other short-handed. Pass across was blocked, and there's another try off the bar. That was Connor McDavid with the shot. And for the far half boards, the Panthers make the pass. 10 seconds. Closest opportunity to strike short-handed. Bennett low slow, but the Oilers, they have first say on special teams in the 2025 Stanley Cup Final. Masterful penalty killing job for Edmonton. So to end Paul Maurice's undefeated record of leading after any period with the Florida Panthers.
Give me 1 second. I just need to get a quick pause.
If you get Ian on board here, how's everything?
Everything's good. Well, I do agree with John that honestly, for Edmonton, every game is a must-win because they just, but especially this one, because once the Panthers get up on them, I don't think they're going to surrender that lead.
And they're very good at defending any lead after any period. In fact, they're undefeated at it. But there's a curious question about whether or not the Oilers are going to be the ones ending that undefeated record, because we know the Panthers, they're the best defensive team in the playoffs. The Oilers, they're the best offensive team in the playoffs. Fewest goals, the Panthers have the fewest goals given up among the teams that are left. The Oilers have scored the most goals, 4 per game. They scored 1 less goal than the Panthers, but the goals 4 per game rate stands at Florida, 3.88, Edmonton, 4.06.
So, go ahead, Ian.
Oh, sorry, Don. Actually, John, go ahead. I'll leave my point before the intermission ends.
So when we talk, I just want to talk about this really quick because you talk about the goals for. We didn't get a chance to talk about it in detail, but we mentioned the notes. As far as the goals for, goals against, you had those wild swings at the beginning for games 1 and 2 for Edmonton. And then going into the Western Conference Finals against Dallas, Edmonton actually had a negative goal differential in the first and second. Do you think that, them being only up +4, +2, because Dallas was so anemic, something that Edmonton should be worried about? Because now we're entering the second period where Florida is up on the edge of 21-11, and that's usually, in my opinion, Alec, when Florida plays at their best in that second period.
And this is the period that's most important for the Oilers, that second period, because they know that the Panthers, they're at their best when they play in the middle frames. They want to establish a tone, impose their will in this second period. What I want to watch for is that third line, Marchand, Lundell, Losterinen, insane chemistry with one another. Marchand did unlock another gear that all of us never knew that he still had. After 2 rounds, he was tied for the team scoring lead. And his production speaks to how good the third line has been. And if the top 2 units are producing, the offensive plays they're getting from this trio is the cherry on top.
And you talk about their production, again, they've already got one there and alongside for Brad Marchand on the power play. Leon Draisaitl at 106 from Kasperi Kapanen and Jake Wollman. Rebound near the right, that off a good screen from Kane in the setup. Sam Bennett, 5-hole chance on the side for Carter Verhaeghe. Matthew Tkachuk, he's battling at the net. That was deemed a goal. It then gave the Cats a power play 2 minutes later. Brad Marchand able to score out front from Nate Schmidt and Erod. Alec, you go ahead and get to your point.
Oh, so I thought
Or Ian. Yeah, Ian, I'm sorry.
So, real quick, I actually wanted to talk about yesterday. It was the debut Jack Taglione. Sorry, not Sequitur. Actually, you know what? I'll get that to that in a second because the thought just occurred to me. So, it's a different sport with a different set of circumstances, but in this period, I feel like Connor McDavid has to become, you know how people would talk about that LeBron James would go into takeover mode and will his team to a lead to the point where the other team couldn't get it. I feel like McDavid has to take center stage in this, and in a sense, he has to be the selfish one. I get it's not really conducive to hockey since it's a team sport in all sense. But if there was ever a time for Connor McDavid to say, okay, forget this, I'm going to be the one to drive this offense to where we need to go, it's him.
Ian, let me follow up really quickly because I know you're going to be able to give me a yes or no or explain it. So I agree with your point 150%, but do you think Connor McDavid's got to do it in the next 20? Or do you think he can kind of figure out his game? We already know what his game's going to be, play defense, penalty kill, and all that stuff now for his extra responsibilities. But do you think he's got to take over the second period? Or do you think he can go in the future part of the series?
Well, so the second, maybe not the second period, but I heard you guys say that the Panthers have been the most dangerous from either in the second period or from the second period onward.
Right, yes.
So I feel like it has to be the second period where he, turns into Connor McJesus, as they call him, because if the Oilers cannot slow down the Panthers' attack in the second period, which is quintessential, but let's be real. If the Panthers want a goal, they'll get it. So it has to be the second period. It's like here's a comparison. You know how it always seemed in the third quarter that those Warriors teams that won the championships just took the lead and never went back?
Sure.
But they always lost when they couldn't get it going in the third quarter, or rather the teams matched them in production. That has to be the second period for the Oilers. Because I think once they take the lead in the second and establish it, they shouldn't give it up in the third.
Nope, because to your point, and again, Alec, we can jump in here in a second. To your point, Ian, and we've had this discussion. I'm glad we did. So 7-0 when leading after the first for the Cats, 10-0 when leading after the second. They've not relinquished it once it's been past 40 minutes.
That's a telling stat. And I know for the fact the Oilers 4-11, as if you exclude the 2020 qualifying round, because that was a wonky year and COVID messed everything up. But once again, that undefeated streak for Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers. One of those famous cases being Game 7 against Boston. The missed breakaway in Game 5 of that series, which sparked the domino effect. Brad Marchand missed it, didn't score that breakaway at the buzzer on Sergei Bobrovsky. The dominoes keep falling down. Now he's in Florida.
So I want to lean into the point that we just talked about. I'm glad that you guys brought them all up. You got Connor McDavid, who's got 10 shifts right now at 8:07. Again, that looks to lead all forwards here. Evan Bouchard's going to get the top D-man time. That's no surprise. But at 8:07, I'm looking on the other side right now for the Cats. Actually, to lead all forwards across the whole game is Sam Reinhart with the same amount at 8:08 in his 10 shifts. But for McDavid last year, and Alec made a great point of this in the preview show yesterday, that there was some injuries and alongside, and it forced McDavid to have to play more minutes because Draisaitl was hurt. But he had 7 games last year in the postseason where he played 25 minutes or more time on ice. This season so far, it's only been 2 games. And to Ian's point, now I just mentioned this too, if things start to get out of hand, you're going to see number 97 start to get more time. I just wonder, and I'll say this out loud, I think the Oilers, no matter what happens in this game 1, are going to stick to their game plan. Make sure they keep the time on ice even and everything else. I do think if the Cats go up by a couple more games, as it was last year, then you might start to see Draisaitl McDavid on the same line. Then you might start to see more counterattack and desperation. But as it is for right now, for the first 2 games, I would say for the first 120 minutes of this series, no matter what happens for Edmonton, I don't think there will be panic. They're going to stick to their game plan in the first 2 games, in my opinion.
Yep. They're going to stick to it and run by that. Heavy counterattack on the rush. The Panthers do a good job of preventing that. But, as we know, last year, there are no safe leads in sports. Not even a 3-0 series lead. And we know that the Oilers, if they lose this one, no pressure. Perhaps the next one they could bounce back. And at the very best, I think the Oilers split the first 2 games. If the Panthers take game 1, no worries there. Just make sure to get a win in game 2.
If you told me, I think you guys both would agree with this, but if you told me, Paul Maurice and Chris Knobloch, that after 4 games in this series, that both teams would earn a split, I think that they would absolutely take that.
They would. That's what we would feel. A split of the first 2 games of this series would be beneficial. Now, I know for the fact that when I considered your Oilers in 6 prediction, there was a part of me that believes that involves the Oilers winning every game at Florida. In fact,
Right.
it also involves that the Oilers could win at the very building that McDavid was drafted at.
Very interesting. And I like that call for you because you're absolutely right. If that's going to happen, I think that is what's needed. You're exactly right. I was shocked when I went across the panel before I jumped in with you guys. Henrik Lundqvist, he actually gave a game prediction when no one else would, and he actually did say Edmonton in 6 as well.
Oh, so you're both right in line with each other. So, yes, it is. So, yes, it was. You think back to 2015. Of course, Connor McDavid on that draft. Jack Eichel going number 2. That rival between them, much of a lesser extent. The Florida Panthers picked Lawson Krause, who never really worked out for them, but he's found a home with the Coyote/Mammoth.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, alongside for the Cats, I mean, it's Bill Zito in 2020, Paul Maurice in 2022. There's been a lot of futility in between 1996 and that Cup final all the way to now. We talked about it along the lines, and I mentioned the point, and I hammered down on it. You can't really talk about taxes yet. Maybe in 3 more years from now, after the cap shoots up $21 million, maybe a combined 6 or so less in the next 3 years, 18 to 21 million, somewhere around that range. Then we might be able to have the conversation. But I didn't mention anyone having that conversation initially when the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers were trying to occupy hockey in South Florida, because that was almost a running joke for that long of a time.
And it was. And all of a sudden, this narrative of no state income tax being the reason why the Lightning and the Panthers are so good, I don't buy all of that.
No.
The reason why they're so good is that you build a team around them, a playoff contending team that can contend for many, many years. The Lightning did that before the Panthers did. And all of a sudden, people want to point to that. The Panthers had a good team in 1996 when they built around Ed Jovanovski, John Babysbrook, and Scott Mellovey and company. They had a very good team back then. They were able to deliver upset after upset and knock up several of the high-flying teams before they ran out of gas to the vaunted Avalanche machine. But what it takes is that you build a core and a culture around the team. The Panthers have that now. The Lightning had that before the Panthers did. And that's what it takes to have a good front office and a good coach at your disposal.
Alec, I want to ask you this because admittedly I didn't see the cap in. I think we're going to have enough time here before the second period. So when I look at the Minnesota Wild, the Marcus Johansson, he's in the vet min between 1 year, $800,000 for the 34-year-old. I think that's a great signing for Minnesota. And even though Yanni Gordolf, the initial requirement for Tampa, That didn't work out as great as they wanted to. It's a 6-year, 2.33, which I think is an excellent cap hit for the 33-year-old Yanni Gourde, the maestro. But I'm shocked. I'm seeing this number now. I thought Colorado was trying to avoid a cap crunch, and alongside Mikko Rantanen, they make the move. I can't believe that Brock Nelson makes 7.5 through 3 more years. He's already 33.
Me neither. I know Nelson's aging, and of course he's a big fit on the middle six, but $7.5 million per year. I know the Avs are trying to split it evenly between Natchez and Nelson, but Natchez is due for a hefty pay raise next.
I don't even know what world that makes sense and alongside for Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on it because I scratched my head. I'm not saying Brock Nelson's not a great player, but I would take that number and cut it in half.
Or at the most, $6 million.
We'll see where that goes. Again, we're going to get some more signings and information. I want to get some of your thoughts on the coach hiring for the Pittsburgh Penguins when we get into the second intermission as well. So Alec's going to be a little bit ahead of me here as I flip back to the TNT feed, but that'll work good in between the play-by-play and color. Here's a slap shot for Evan Rodriguez and a rolling puck. Gets collected now for RNH. Off the drop, Corey Perry off the hole for Mikkola. Already had a couple of glabs with those big paws at the blue line. This will be a spin and around Alex Barkov. Backhand sent toward the net by Perry, and Bobrovsky in amongst the screen, able to kick it out with the left side of his pad and throw it back down the ice. So Darnell Nurse now back on that second line. Look, I know he makes a lot of money on the other side, but now with Klingberg and Wallman and Matthias Ekholm in the mix of all that too. The D pairs for Edmonton is probably the most out it's been in the McDavid-Draisaitl area. I don't think you can even argue that. 7-0 when leading after 1, as we mentioned here for the Cats. 10-0 when leading after 2. Stuart Skinner throws this off the glass. It bounces off Evan Bouchard. And now the orange and blue are going to try to go right to left in this second. We'd imagine, at least for me, that this call is going to slow down a little bit in that second. This will be sent back down. And alongside for Skinner, stop and leave for Darnell Nurse. Chris Knobloch's squad about to start again. Here's a floating pass. Intercepted across the neutral zone. And now the Oil on their back skate. Here's a pass from 50. Try to find the entry here for Kulak. This one bounces off of him. Cat's able to get this to the left side red line, push it out. Kulak now. Take this outstretched pass. This will be zipped in off the glass. I didn't think they gained the red line, but they're going to give it to him anyway for Edmonton. There's a back pass for Sam Bennett. It's a lazy one. And now Edmonton's going to get some possession as they get tenderized to the left side red line to the Oilers. Here's a touch pass. Carter Verhaeghe. He loves it in the Sunshine State. Leads to a 2-on-1. Wide open. Scores! Sam Bennett breakaway!
How do you get wide open from that spot of 2-on-1 on the counter, taking a page out the Oilers playbook? And 2 minutes into the second period, Bennett once again on the goal sheet for 12 of the postseason. Wide open on the takeaway, collecting it. Verhaeghe starts to rush. And then Bennett, he gets to the goal mouth to receive the feed. No stick in the way for Jake Wallman. And Nate Schmidt was the beneficiary of that 2-on-1.
Well, I'll say it now. I was saying a lot of nice things here for Wallman and Klingberg and Adam Henrique or whatever else in the back end. Kind of looked like Bennett was skating in slow motion, and the rest of the Oilers were too. I mean, he was impossibly wide open by about 3.5 strides.
How in the world?
3-1. Skinner's not going to be able to do anything on that, but his goals against is definitely hurting. Again, 3 goals, 5 out of 8. Sam Bennett's got 12, a franchise playoff record for a single postseason. And again, he's in a contract year. We're just seeing Jonah Gadjevich go to the players' bench. Here's an opportunity the other way. AJ Greer is already beat up as well, but they could also call up some other stuff on the fourth line. So Jonah Gadjevich, it's a loss, but it shouldn't be a huge loss as far for the Cats in the rest of this series, depending on how long he's out. As this is picked up the other way. This will be sent back down again. Barkov, as Podkolzin indicates the ice. Here's a rolling puck. Here's Slapper, gets deflected right at the net and off the back skate. The Oilers run into each other. Janmark cleans out his own man. What's happening? Reinhart now throws this across the right side. He's going to get the puck. Good work there. He's going to have to blow a tire, though, as he goes to the right side red line. Now an opportunity for Sully Podkolzin. Off the drop. Victor Robertson, slap shot. Oh, he scores! It beat Bobrovsky through the 5-hole. Are you kidding me?
Oh my goodness. How did Victor Robertson find room past that? A long blast from about 40 feet from the top of the left circle, and the Oilers once again have light. Robertson celebrates, and how in the world? We speak of the Bennett goal. How in the world did he get that wide open? How in the world did Robertson find all that space?
Robertson, as you said, he's wide open near the left circle. This does get a piece of Bobrovsky off his glove hand and deflects down and in. He just got a piece of it. It bounced off his left pad and went in. That's rotten luck.
Yeah, rotten luck for Bobrovsky. You felt like he should have had that one, but it felt like the Oilers were chasers out there. I know it's a play on first days, but Victor Robertson, like Victor Crumb, a seeker who caught the snitch. He finds the snitch, but then instead of doing that, he tosses it to the crowd.
Man, this game has been crazy. He had 2 goals in the last 116. Here's another chance off the rush. Seth Jones, of all people. And this one's closed 5-hole by Skinner. I mean, he was all alone right out in front of the bounce. As this is starting to get wide open, I said this was going to slow down in the second. I don't think this behooves either one of these teams to go 1,000 miles an hour because Bobrovsky could all of a sudden be in trouble. And this game could be tied at 3 with the same jersey number as Seth Jones, as this goes back down the other way now. Opportunity here for Jake Wallman. Very eventful game so far, 3-2. John with you alongside Alec Nava. Ian Genji's just left, but I imagine he's going to pop back in at some point. That's Tkachuk. And off the tie-up, Verhaeghe now off the float. Tkachuk smartly skates back into his own end. He's going to need some help. It's Seth Jones. He gets tied up. Trent Frederick. This will go just wide. Back now to Jake Wallman. Again, he's got a lot of speed. Again, he loves to do the gritty when he scores some big goals. I'd love to see him score a big goal, even though admittedly I want the Cats to win. Jake Wallman gets taken down as this one gets sent back down. And no, I did not say that during the Cup preview because I got to be smart. I can say it now, though. As this goes to the right side, Bennett forced to steal. Verhaeghe, his backhand, he gets stick lifted, and there is no call. That was clean. As this goes the other way, there is blown assignments all over the ice for the Oilers. Whatever was said in the dressing room, I guess they're going to go right to the counterattack style, but I don't think that's the right call at this point. Stuart Skinner now, from right to left. Here's a race now. Number 97 gets a stick shot. Bringing this one ahead for Corey Perry. Slowly puts it around the end boards. RNH now. He'll get canceled off by Nate Schmidt. Reinhart. Now Evan Rodriguez. E-Rod wins the battle toward the right side end boards. As this will be knocked away from Ekblad. Long foot. RNH try to find it, but Gustav Forsling. Again, he was a waiver claim. Hard to believe that's the case, as this will be iced against the Cats.
Gustav Forsling wanted to shoot it down, but we are seeing everything happen all over the place. You said it, missed assignments for the Oilers. I can't believe that the Oiler defense missed an assignment on Carter Verhaeghe for Evander Kane once again inside Mikola's head. The physical plays being highlighted, but we need to pay attention to the defensive assignments. Verhaeghe picks it up, and an excellent recovery from the Oiler defense to prevent him from getting what could have been the goal to get the Panthers back up by 2.
No, you're absolutely right. On the 50% close, yes, you're right. You got to get back there and make the play. The Oilers did, but as you mentioned, you just got burned on the other side for Sam Bennett. Victor Robertson probably got a little bit lucky there. There's another turnover, this time for the Cats. The shot will get blocked, but this is a very sloppy second period. And regardless of what happens right now between both of these teams, I imagine in totality that Paul Maurice and Chris Knobloch are going to be screaming at their guys. As this one gets bounced out in front, blocked by Forsling. Rolling puck gets sent out of the zone, but this cannot happen in the Stanley Cup Finals game. If you're giving up this many odd man rushes, you're just asking for your goalies to pay for it, and that is not how you win games. I know they're in the midst of the battle right now, but this has got to be much cleaner. Aaron Ekblad throws it in behind the end boards. This is getting very physical, and I'm having a hard time differentiating those jerseys in blue and orange from the ones in white and blue, because the hits have been so heavy on both sides. Seth Jones hit hard and around the end boards, And then a pass right out in front and off the back skate. The Oilers do not collect, otherwise it would have been 3-3. Man, oh man. Back around the end boards now. Klingberg takes a hit. Marchand tries to get it away from him. John Klingberg having a tough time as he got tied up there from the third line, and Anton Lundell. Jake Wallman, he leads it off the rush. It's a 4-on-3. Wallman is cutting on front of the net for Podkolzin and throws it back for Janmark, but Chuck E. Cheese is right there. And alongside for Bennett, already got two, stayed onside. This pass goes hard enough the inboards. Bennett gets thrown against the wall. Back from Tkachuk, number 9, has been dancing with the puck right now. He gets taken down off the spin around, thrown out in front of the net. This pass is not very clean, and it's going to allow Tkachuk to send it back to his own teammates. 12:20 left to go in the second. The shot board is 16-10 Edmonton, but this second period is when you want to throw away for both teams, as this is iced right now against Florida.
And this is not what we want to see out of these two clubs. We talk about what they need to do to win, but so far, aside from the hits, they're just missing assignments left and right. What are we doing?
Yeah, this is not very clean here. And Alec, again, I know it's a price to pay as far as if you win a game, you take the result if you win it, 100%. We're going to agree on that. But as you mentioned with these coaches, if this is not cleaned up into this third period, I mean, we could see a 6-5 type of game, and that's just from missed assignments. As Ekholm throws it in behind the inboards, Tomas Nosek toward the left side red line. Marchand now. Bouchard finishes his hit. This is put back toward the left side red line. See if the Cats can get a little more control here. Long outstretched pass. Marchand eludes the hit. He had a duck out of the way. Bouchard was flying right at him. Now Marchand, as this one's gloved out of the air. Jesper Boquist, that was a smart shot on net. That was a lot of steam on it. There's the Ekblad in the corner. Hits it around the inboards now. Florida gets canceled off. Barkov now. He gets a change. A little top line action here for Paul Maurice's squad. Here's a spin across the red line. Reinhart gets the steal. 3-on-2. If they can get Barkov at the net, this goes behind Skinner for a moment, but the Oilers pick it up. Now and off the spin. Here's a chance. Knocks down the referee. Nobody's safe right now near the players' bench. As this goes back down to Ekblad. Quickly pushes it 100 feet the other way. Florida trying to stay onside. Can't do so. As it's recollected here for Trent Frederick. See if anyone can finally take a breath. This has been crazy town in this second period. 10:50 left to go in it. Sent back toward the right side red line here. Take a couple of hits. Forsling now trying to get inside off positioning there with Schmidt. Ekblad, Reinhart, all tied in there. This is near the left dot. Forsling now waits for this to come loose. This goes right in between the circles to the Cats. As we get Let's Go Oilers chant again, home ice advantage here. Start for games 1 and 2. That hasn't happened here for the Oilers in the finals since 1988. They hadn't had a home ice advantage. As this one now gets iced against the Oilers.
And once again, still no stoppages for any ice scrappages, so this ice is still going to be worn off for a little longer. And a Canadian team hasn't had home ice advantage in the Stanley Cup Finals since 2011 when the Vancouver Canucks did so. They fell to Brad Marchand, the Boston Bruins, in 7 games. The home team won the first 6 games, but there was a stark differential between those two sides, in which the Canucks, they won low-scoring games at home. The Bruins won blowouts in that year's final.
We're almost halfway through regulation right now. The Cats do have a 3-2 lead. Edmonton leads 22-17 on the hits. They've iced it again as we just step back underneath the play. Again, I'll just give you a quick reset. Might as well do that in the second. There's already been some silliness. Sam Bennett got another one, his 12th from Nate Schmidt. Carter Verhaeghe, he's got 12, Alec. Victor Arvidsson, his second from Podkolzin and Bouchard. That answers the goals at 2 minutes and 3:17.
And if you can keep up this physical play here in the Stanley Cup Final, normally we say good luck. In the first 3 rounds, all right. But in the Stanley Cup Final, good luck.
Yeah, these teams will not survive if they play at this pace right now. Oh, a chance just misses the right side post as we got an aerial view. Sent back in behind the inboards now. It was going to be left for Nurse, and we'll have to spin back around. This is picked off now for Seth Jones, and all of a sudden that 50% retention doesn't look too bad. They use that LTI money from Tkachuk from the Four Nations from the injury. Both teams have stacked back up. Again, a first-rounder for Jake Wallman. You get John Klingberg back on the other end. And Kasperi Kapanen, I know he's been a late call-up. Skinner got smoked in behind his own net, apparently. That's what I thought I saw. Here's a half spin. And now the Cats will steal. Have an opportunity for Verhaeghe. Now Skinner doesn't play this one in behind. I think he just wants to sit back in the goal crease for a minute after taking a ride. And this now will be picked up now for Edmonton. They'll chip it. Cross ice. Pick this one back up for Janmark. Trying to bounce this off the end boards. Forsling needs help. Here's a slap shot. This one partially deflected by Aaron Ekblad. He's been a longtime Florida Panther, I believe an original draftee. Sent back here behind the end boards now for Jake Wallman. Serene will give chase. Ito gets a steal. Here's a wrister. Barkov sells it wide. Another slap shot in from the point. Chance at the net. Skinner fights it off. Here's another one. Reinhart with a block out in front. Florida now all of a sudden just from a slap shot are hunting the puck. Here's a chance near the right side across the wall. Can the Cats hold it in with Kulikov? No, they can't. And now Nate Schmidt on his back skate. Chris Knobloch squad's gassed. They didn't take a change. Reinhart now allows the positioning for Arvidsson. He takes a hit. It's now right to left to go the Oilers. I've been saying that a lot. I feel like I'm calling a track meet. Ekholm, he chips. And across the right side red line. Second period chances. 5-1 for the Cats. Battle at the net. Bobrovsky turned around to find where it was, and so did the camera. As this goes to the right side dot for Kulikov. Kulikov spins. Take a breath in his own end as Seth Jones catapulted it off the end glass. Bennett will watch this one go back down to Zeph Jones. Back pass here for the Road Whites. Again, the Florida Panthers have not had a home ice throughout this entire Stanley Cup playoffs. And I guess they like it as Road Warriors. As this goes the other way. Good hit the other way by Ekblad to cancel it off. Edmonton fans want a penalty. Of course, they're not going to get one. 7:35 left to go in the second. John Under with you alongside Alec Nava. He's going to close this one today. Ekblad, a momentary misplay. Here from Mikkola now too. Shot in from the point. Reverses ice for the left side red line. Fans are really getting irate at that second opportunity. I don't know why. I didn't see anything. RNH now back in his own end. Started again. Slow pass here from the right to left dot. Opportunity now for McDavid. Has been largely quiet in this game to his standards, but that's how it was when it started in the first three games. Remember, McDavid had an entire game where he didn't have a single shot. As this is sent back down the other way for Forsling. Forsling now, the right side boards. He's able to get it out. Long flip. Brad Marchand tries to get a reach at it. Can't get it. Darnell Nurse. Now right up the gut here for the Edmonton Oilers. And off the back pass. Matthias Janmark. Backhand Wallman. This one is saved at the stick of Bobrovsky. Near the right of the crease. Jake on his back skate. He loves to be able to play the puck. Sends it into the traffic. Slow save Bobrovsky. That might have partially got deflected by Frederick, but he stopped it anyway. Sent back in behind the end boards now for Forsling. Florida trying to get it out of their own end. Edmonton had some extended zone time, and this will be flipped. And this will be ice, so Florida cannot change at 6:18.
So even more times about having an ice scrapage. So the poor ice needs scraping. Come on. Stop hitting the puck.
I think I need a breath, Alec. Again, admittedly, I've called a lot of games with you, but this really does feel like a breathless pace in this second period. Usually we start to see things kind of slow down. I wouldn't say that from a triple deflection to the screen, and then Trent Frederick shot it wide afterwards.
Yeah, that was so close, and I feel like both teams are lucky to be where they are right now. The Oilers are lucky to be down by one because the Panthers, they were killing them before this point.
Yeah, second period we mentioned a plus 10 differential. That's when they kind of put that Venus flytrap. They close the door. They get that noose, and they look pretty good right now. I know it's only a one-goal game. Third period is usually where their Oilers are at their best as far as their counterattack, but the Cats are just as good. And as you mentioned with the Cats, they're not going to be anemic in any area. And again, no disrespect to Dallas, but they didn't show us anything. And they were eliminated in the third straight Western Conference final for a second time now by the Oilers. That's why we got this rematch again. Here's an opportunity off the drop from Draisaitl. McDavid on the same line now. So this is what Ian and I talked about it as well, alongside with Alec. Now they're starting to double shift the boys and sent the measure of the moment because they are getting dominated in the second. Alec's right. Pick now for Evan Rodriguez. At the point, touch pass. Rodriguez got to get rid of it quickly. And Florida's got to get spaced. Here's a chance from the point. This one's blocker to side before it ever hits Skinner. Goes back now to the left side red line. Slap shot it in safely. Erod's going to hunt it first. Send it back in amongst the embankment. Picked up by Florida off the back skate. Evan Rodriguez just couldn't get there in time. But you can see what they were trying to do. Bobrovsky. What a bomb pass! Bobrovsky sets up Tkachuk. If he could score here, that would be gross. Picked up now for Tkachuk. High slot. This one goes wide. Sent back to the goal mouth. High slot now. Another slapper. That was a heck of a feed there by Bobrovsky. As we go the other way, it was almost like he was hunting for a goal. Janmark now sent it the other way. That was clear from 100 feet. As this is a slap pass right in front of the bodies. Picked up now and alongside for Edmonton. Near the right side red line. Canceled off by Schmidt. Right point. Now left point Nurse. Nurse steps up and amongst the wall. He gets pinned for the moment. 4:25 left to go in this breathless second period. My goodness. This is sent the other way. We already had a lot of action in the first. We might have tripled that in the second. This is sent the other way now. Nate Schmidt. And alongside with Bennett, who is indeed on a hat-trick watch. One per period. Verhaeghe wide open. He airmails it. Man, oh man, he was all alone in the middle of the circles. Picked up now at the point. Slap shot, Forsling. That one kisses the glass. Ekblad. Man, I feel like I need a cough drop. Lundell throws it into the corner. Forsling. He throws it on. Finally, mercifully, a stoppage at 3:52.
Oh, man. The ice need to be scraped for a while now. That's 16 minutes plus in which we saw continuous action. And finally, this back and forth period is finally getting a stoppage. But, man, that felt like we were going, say, a 5K, in which we were seeing back and forth, great lead changes between all of the runners.
Alec, you said it beautifully. That was one of the most breathless second periods. This game has been a lot of fun. You know what? Sometimes I give the analysis, I give a little bit too much. I give you credit because you always keep me even keel. We're trying to say the best of both worlds, that the Edmonton Oilers, they can lock much better down on defense, and the same thing with the Panthers. But I guess you know what? Between these two teams, we're just going to turn it on into turbo mode.
If I'm Chris Knobloch, I'm calling my guys to the bench so as to get towards Bobrovsky and send guys towards the net. Now that we're seeing the double shift Draisaitl and McDavid together, you also want to make sure that the Panthers' mind games come back to bite them at the very least. But it rarely does it ever happen in the playoffs because even for the Panthers being the most disciplined team, the most penalized team in the NHL, their discipline levels out in the postseason to an extent.
Yeah.
And it's rare that we see mind games come back to bite.
So we mentioned about some of those penalties, and I was saying that it would behoove Edmonton to be able to keep those ones down. Again, 3 in the first, 2 for the Cats in the first. We haven't had anything in the second, and the reason we haven't had any penalties, as Alec mentioned, we haven't had any stoppages really between this, as it's 15 out of 18 for Stuart Skinner, 15 now out of 17 for Bobrovsky. Skinner hasn't had a lot of work in that first, but he's had all the work in the second.
He's one of the best goaltenders who have bouncing back from adversity. He gave up 2 in the first, gave up 1 early in the second, but ever since he's been picture perfect for the Oilers. While his defense in front of him is doing a lot of work, when he's getting a chance to make stops, he's delivered. Even one on his helmet.
Yeah, it's been everywhere in that second period, and there's got to be a pushback for Edmonton. I would say that they've definitely tried. It's been a back and forth. They've just not been able to get some of the chances. It's for those missed assignments are going to rue both teams. I imagine everyone's going to need a breath. 3:45 left to go in the second. The shot board is, even with the exception of 1, and that's the same as far as the goal chart, 3-2. Florida out in front. Sam Bennett with a couple of goals. Victor Arvidsson with the slap shot answer to make it 3-2, but Edmonton's still down 1. Again, the Cats, if they lead after 2, they are perfect 10-0. If records are made to be broken, the Oilers are going to need to do that on home ice. I've been on the point in this one and saying that I think Game 1 is more important for Edmonton You got home ice advantage. You got to take advantage of it as this puck goes out of play. 3:16.
You must take advantage of home ice advantage here. They have 2 games here to start off the series. Then if this goes furthermore, you'll have game 5 at your home ice and game 7. And you must take advantage of home ice. And it could be a tone setter for one of these teams should they win.
Now, Alec, I know we saw it a little bit last year, and I know we got a long way to go in this series, but I do want to make this point quickly and see if you agree. If the Florida Panthers go up 2-0 and take both games on the road, I don't care what happens if it goes back to 7. I think the Florida Panthers are going to lift the Stanley Cup again. Edmonton's got to at least split.
They have to at least split the first 2 games.
Lundell, as this is now to the left side glass, there was a big hit the other way. Lundell pops back up, gets his shot. As this is sent back now and off the flip, Evander Kane will slowly take this one D to D from right to left. And Florida feels like they have an extra man on the ice right now. Tkachuk wanted to make sure he didn't touch this off the bench. I don't think he did, or at least the Zebras aren't calling it for too many men on the ice. 2:30 thereabouts left to go in the second. John Hunter with you alongside Alec Nava. If you miss any portion of Game 1, I implore you to go ahead and listen to the replay because this one has been a lot of fun. If you're at a TV screen, a phone, or anything else, get to it right now and join in with us. As this is sent back now for Skinner. Hold as Bennett was in his face.
Yeah, so Stuart Skinner wanted to hug that right post because he felt like there was going to be too much action. That second line's back out there, and again, another ice scrapage. We have been missing this for most of the second period because of 16 minutes without such. And now Florida, after getting a majority, the bulk of the chances, Stuart Skinner forced into a heavy workload in the second period. But finally, he's making the most out of this.
Yeah, he is. Again, you could talk about whatever it was in the first, and it was a rough start for Stuart Skinner, but he's bounced back admirably. And we've punched that button a bunch of times in the previous show, not to mention it now. As far as adversity, he could fight through that. This could have been a lot worse for the Oilers in this second period. I think they're fortunate now at this point. They played a really good first period. They did not play a good second period.
No, they need to go back to what worked in the first period to take advantage of the Panthers' slow start, and they did, and they were excellent in that first period. Go on the counter and adjust to Paul Maurice's adjustments.
That's what's going to be at stake, and we'll see what happens in about. Let me look at this again for the score clock. 2:18 officially, so just about 40 minutes again set to expire for the first 2 minutes. This Game 1, Alec, I know rematches sometimes they can be hyped up to absurdity, but I think this Game 1 so far has lived up to the billing.
So far, so good. And I know in the last rematch, it was a tight battle, but it was back-to-back victories of the exact same score by the Red Wings to begin that 2009 final. We might not know what happens in this rematch, as Darren Pang interviews Chris Malbach, the first head coach since Scotty Bowman with the St. Louis Blues to reach the Stanley Cup in his first 2 seasons. Scotty's son Stan is the general manager of the Oilers.
Yeah, and I didn't realize this because I imagined he was in his 60s in the mid-90s with the Red Wings. Scotty Bowman is 91 years old. He's been around for a while. He gets a chance to – he loves hockey. He's been a lifer, still a very sharp mind, not just for a man of his age. And he gets a chance to be able to watch along with his son today, but he's been taken in the Memorial Cup. He's just a man that loves hockey. He's been a lifer.
He is.
Connor McDavid now get a chance to take this one against Verhaeghe. You would think Connor's got the advantage here. And how many times are we going to have to redo this puck draw? Alec had this happen a couple times into the first. No wonder why the fans are getting a little bit upset.
Oh, man. Of course, they have every right to be upset because that's what 3-4 times in which the puck was about to be dropped, and then they'll drop because there's a false start.
RNH can't win it this time. It took McDavid out, and Bennett had some net front presence. Honestly, it feels like Sam Bennett, he's either going to get an empty netter to win it or he's going to get 3. I don't think he's going to get stuck on 2 today. He's playing too well. As this will be dropped back, set up here for Ekblad. Good save in amongst the traffic for Skinner as he's got up the glove hand. And Jake Wallman got hit again.
Yeah, it's the second time that Wallman has been banged up right after he took that shot block onto the arm. He's getting over to the bench now, but otherwise he seems to be in good condition. It's just a routine defense pair change.
So game 2 will admittedly be on Friday. Alec and I profiled. Again, I'm sure Alec's going to cover a little bit of the NBA Finals. I may join in on some of that depending if I don't have some other odds and ends to do. But no weekend NHL games, so we won't be back until Monday for game 3 after the Friday side together. As Reinhart now long trend knuckle puck, and now a chance for Reinhart to get a little up close and personal as Darnell Nurse has a hold of him.
Nurse has some choice words for Reinhart. We don't know if Nurse is going to be dealt in the offseason because we know that this is the Oilers' last great shot with this core as opposed to what Crosby and Gretzky had in rematches. But nonetheless, the easy answer here is that because the defense core is set, you would have to trade Nurse and then you would keep most of the band around and bring back John Klingberg in that regard.
And Alec, to your point, as this one goes to the screen and wide, you're not going to be able to make that move unless you get some sort of salary retention. As here's an opportunity that goes bounce off the glass because Darnell Nurse is making too much. He's still a good defenseman. It's just the cap hit that's too high. Picked out in front. Stuart Skinner tries to get a stick on it. It was loose in the middle of the slot. Now Evander Kane. He's got to turn on the burners. He tried to leave for a Draisaitl. I think got hooked. And that is going to be a power play opportunity once Florida touches. Unless Edmonton scores here, Kane had Draisaitl right up the middle of the gut, and Florida was forced to hook.
There was no choice for the Panthers to take, except to take a penalty. There are two choices here because the defender was right behind the play. You either let him go or you commit a penalty. It was a high stick, but what else did Rodriguez have to do? The other option that would do is hooking. But I would rather commit a hooking penalty than a high sticking penalty, though. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you want to stay away from the face because there's a possibility, Alec, as you mentioned, it could be 4 if there was blood. We didn't get any there. But you're right. In the long scheme of things, if I'm Evan Rodriguez, I'm forced to commit a penalty there. You get beat with Draisaitl with his face up the gut from Kane. Even with Bobrovsky as good as he is, if Draisaitl's got a one-on-one, he's going to score.
On most occasions, yes. If he is all along a breakaway, he can beat any goaltender. I think the only question of who he could beat in sort of a breakaway situation is could he be able to beat Andrei Vasilevsky? Because Vasilevsky is so good at stopping breakaways. But nonetheless, Draisaitl on most occasions, if he gets a break, he's scoring.
Yeah, so I think that was the right call. That was one of those quote-unquote good penalties, but it only matters now if the Cats can kill it. Again, if you get to any situation here where this game is tied with 1:13 left in the second on the power play for the Oilers, that all of a sudden takes that one leading after 2 narrative when the Panthers were 10-0 out the window. This is another big opportunity here for the Oilers. Again, they were not able to score on the power play when they got some chances, because one of them was taken quickly away by the Perry trip and the Ekblad hold. They got to get a full 2 minutes. They got to score here. You got to tie this up because otherwise this entire second period, with the exception of the Arvidsson goal, has not been very good for the Oilers.
It was a lucky bounce for Arvidsson getting this towards the net. But on this power play, you want to have your full 5-man unit out there, and that includes Perry. When Perry was in the box, it felt like the Oilers had a missing piece on that 4-on-3.
And I'll say for the fan, the diehard with the nettle for the Oilers and the clown makeup and the suit, hopefully he doesn't get memed to death as far as his clothes of choice.
Oh, man. What a good save by Stuart Skinner on Aleksander Barkov with Barkov cutting towards the front.
It was.
He had to make that one.
1:13 left to go here in the second. John, here with you alongside Alec Nava. Again, I'll carry the first 10 of the third as well, and then Alec will close this here for us. So we'll get 20 minutes if this one goes to OT. You never know. But this could be a long way here with 1:05 left in the second. The clock difference is going to be about 45 seconds. Now Draisaitl and McDavid, you get a little bit of a breathement there, and now a power play. So you got the 4 forwards. Bouchard will be the back end defenseman. Bouchard now, top of the screen. That one's high and off the blocker of Bobrovsky. That was a heck of a shot, but a good save. Now they got traffic out in front of the net alongside Corey Perry. That's what was missing on the 4-on-3 power play when he was in the box. Picked up now from McDavid. Very patient here. Slapper, Draisaitl, big save. Bobrovsky with a big rebound. He was not near that right post. McDavid. Now Nugent-Hopkins. This one goes off the glass. 20 seconds left. McDavid, slapper set up for Draisaitl off the pass as this goes back to Bouchard. McDavid, is he going to shoot it? Goes back to Leon. Bouchard ripper. Another save. Bobrovsky bounces off the referee. And Alec, that might be fortunate because that allowed Florida to clear all the way down the ice. And that is going to end the second.
Several good chances on this Edmonton power play. They're shooting the puck at will on the man advantage, and they needed this because they know the narratives about the Panthers undefeated went up after any period under Maurice. This, once again, is still in play, especially in the second period. 10-0 in such games in this postseason. But here, that second half of that power play, you have to immediately go to your top unit. McDavid, Draisaitl, RNH, Perry, and Bouchard on that 5-man unit. They'll go into your second power play unit, even for Chris Knobloch, like you double shift his top power play. But I don't think that's going to happen this time around. But nonetheless, you must go to your top power play unit. And I think the Oilers, they must score on that power play.
I agree with you completely. It's going to be all systems go from the start of the third period, just to go up and down the ice. The Panthers better be ready for it. I talked about Evan Bouchard. I know we're going to agree with this as far as the offense from the point because both of these teams lead with it. McDavid had a lot of opportunities to shoot near that left dot. He did not. He set it up there for Bouchard for a couple times. Bouchard's already got 5 shots. I think if you would give Bouchard 5 shots per game in every game this series, Edmonton would absolutely take that. That is what they want to have, as he's got 15:52 of time on ice, and as Draisaitl and McDavid started to get double shifted, now McDavid, his ice time ballooned in that second period. It went up to 15:35. Draisaitl at 13:34 as the Cats hold on to a tenuous 3-2 lead after 2.
I want to get to the talking point. You mentioned about the new head coach hiring for the Penguins. Dan Muse, who came over from Peter Laviolette's system, 42 years old. He's been with the Rangers for the last 2 years. Before that, last 3 with Nashville, earlier with the USHL and the NCAA. Admittedly, this is the first time I've heard of him because he was a late riser in the head coaching boards because I thought that the job would go to Mitch Love, the former Calgary Flames assistant, who's now with Spencer Carberry's staff in Washington. But most of the focus has been around Love and DJ Smith of the LA Kings, but Muse was a late riser. The focus here was for player development, to focus on the future. And I think that's why the move is being made here for the Penguins now that I'm reading more about him.
My guess too, Alec, I know it's not the most enlightening take, but when you're bringing in a new coach and you're in the inevitable position that the Penguins are in the rebuild, and Kyle Dubas, and I'm not saying Muse isn't going to have the talent because he could turn into Spencer Carberry, and if he does that, I think Pittsburgh Penguins fans would rejoice as far as the player development. For Kyle Dubas and Muse, I have to imagine that they're going to be on the same wavelength, and that's why Dubas chose him.
Admittedly, I was leaning more towards Mitch Love, for that matter, because he was one of the big names on the head coaching ranks for potential hirings. But I'm low-key intrigued by Muse to see what he brings. On a second look, are we bringing back Chad Ruhwedel with the way that how he looks?
He is a doppelganger for Chad Ruhwedel. That's a 10 out of 10 comment.
Yeah, because he does look like him. As the looks and everything, difference is the glasses.
Because I would say the same thing if you remember on the NBC coverage for Pierre Maguire. Pierre Maguire and head coach Ryan Huska are also doppelgangers. He is the current head coach of the Calgary Flames.
The irony of it. Pierre Maguire, Ryan Huska, now Chad Weedle, Dan Mute. So I guess Cooper and I have something about our head coaches.
Yeah, you guys all have something unique in common in between both of you, and you're also very exemplary in your work. That's why I work with you guys, and I enjoy every single second of it. I imagine, and I won't say this as Cooper as a jest, but I imagine Cooper will be able to join in this series with us. But admittedly, he's probably only going to join if the Cats take a comfortable lead, just like last year, because he's biting his fingernails.
I imagine that being the case, because I know Calgary is one of the only cities that is not rooting for the Oilers in terms of the Canadian drought and all of that. Of course, Calgary, most of them are rooting for the Panthers. And you can imagine the same thing for the city of Vancouver.
I would think the same thing. Everyone else, though, as you mentioned, would be rooting for the Edmonton Oilers because you know what? For the NHL, I think it's the best and the best when you have the superstars. And again, I'll throw Barkov in that category now. Alec and I have known that well over the last few years anywhere where you have to say that. But you want to see the best players play on the biggest stage. I saw this comment. Admittedly, I only saw it out of context, so we can clarify it and have more conversation on it if I get it wrong. But I saw that Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, made a comment. I don't know if it was First Things First, but it was one of the Fox Sports shows where he talked about the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he said, I would compare it to small market teams, and you guys would be having just as much of a celebration if the Pittsburgh Steelers and Green Bay Packers made the Super Bowl. I thought that was the craziest comment I've ever heard. Are the Steelers and Packers really small market teams? Because I don't think so.
Yeah, well, they're widely known teams around the world. The Steelers, they are widely known around the world. If people will be having a celebration. I know the comparison, a more accurate comparison would be if the Steelers and Dallas Cowboys meet in the Super Bowl, given how big of influences these two teams play, not only in this country, but also around the world. They have the two biggest fan bases in North American professional sports. So, and I don't understand why NBA fans are having a meltdown, having two small market teams in the finals. These two teams are playing ethical style of basketball, and these are the two best teams that we have left. The Thunder have a suffocating defense. The Pacers have an efficient offense, high flying all over the place, and they're seeing and this is basically unstoppable force versus another unstoppable force. I'm not saying an immovable object to describe the Thunder because the offense of the Thunder is just as good as the Pacers. So why fans are complaining about this is just beyond me because several years ago, when we were getting endless Warriors versus Cavs meetings, people were sick of it. People were tired of seeing the same matchups over and over again. They get something different, and it was a classic between the Warriors and the Raptors. Then another champion in 2020, the Lakers. Then the Bucks won. Then the Warriors won. Then the Nuggets won. And then last year, the Celtics won. This year, it'll be a seventh different champion in the NBA this many years for the first time in league history. And all of a sudden, people are tired of small market teams. Wasn't parity what people asked for? Sometimes I'm convinced that NBA fans don't like the NBA. I've said this before, and I know I'm a broken record saying this, but it needs emphasis again. NBA fans, at times, they're showing that they don't even like the league or even the sport.
Man, Alec, with the fire take, I love it. You know what, honestly, because I agree with you. I don't think they follow it. I just think they love to go on social media and complain about it.
It's just what they call hate watching. Players, the bunch of them. And I know the product is on a decline, but the fan base is just the worst bit of toxic as it is.
Alec, I want to just have this conversation with you really quickly because as much as you and I love sports, and admittedly, you're more multifaceted than I am, although I love to prep as much as you as far as getting everything together, because when we do it, we do it professionally and also for fun. But I can't imagine watching any sport. I have no energy in my heart to watch anything.
Yeah. Whenever we watch sports, there's just some energy in the games that we watch. We're seeing the good in everything. We're seeing the bad in everything. We can take the good and bad from both sides. Here, we're seeing a lot of good. We're seeing a lot of bad, but it's been mostly good in this game. And that applies for all sports.
Let me ask you this. I know we talked about the Pacers and the Thunder, and I don't know how many people, I wouldn't say I was in a bandwagon, but I did say that the Pacers, I feel like they're going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. I feel like they're a finals team. We covered them in the play-in tournament, and I've kind of fallen in love with their pace of play, pun intended, alongside with Rick Carlisle, because I know him well from a former Pistons coach, Mavericks side, double 10 years all the way across. Pacers, there's a lot to like. But the Oklahoma City Thunder, Sam Presti, all the lottery tickets, somehow only bad for a couple of seasons, maybe a few seasons, after Harden, Westbrook, Durant, Ibaka, Thabo Sefolosha, that group, all of that. Now they're going to be back again. I think the Thunder are going to be back for a while. And we're seeing an emerging dynasty before our eyes. Again, you don't get to say that word very often. I do feel like the Thunder, I know they got to win one first. But honestly, if we have this conversation 3 years from now, if you and I are still privileged to work together, which I hope is the case, I think we'll be talking about the Thunder at that point, maybe 3 or 4 time champions. I feel that strongly in my heart. That being said, how many games are the Pacers going to win?
We don't know. I think at the minimum it's going to be one. But if it goes to full 7 games, I would be shocked because the vast disparity on how these teams play is eye-popping. But if there's any team that could take it to 6, maybe 7, it could be the Pacers. And issue, I'm saying OKC at 5, but anything can happen in a swivel. If the Pacers' magical run ends here, no one will blame them.
No.
If it goes to 6 games, maybe even 7, if it goes to distance, then we're treated ourselves to a classic between teams that, while they were down on their luck previously, they were in an amazing ride. The 2 centerpieces of Paul George trades, by the way, PG for Oladipo and Sabonis, the Pacers turned into Tyrese Halliburton, and then Paul George gets turned into Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, 5 first-round picks, one of them being Jalen Williams, and 2 first-round pick swaps. But this trade fee for the Thunder spans all the way back to 2007 when they traded away Rashard Lewis.
That's crazy. It goes back that far, but you're absolutely right. Again, I know sometimes in my predictions, a lot of times for hockey, I at least go 6, and sometimes I could be known as the person that always picks 6s by default. But I'm 100% agreeing with Alec on this one. This is no disrespect to the Indiana Pacers. I will give them a game, but I am clearly, comfortably will also pick OKC in 5.
Yeah, I think it's going to be OKC handling this one. The Pacers, I think, the game in which they win is going to be a tightly contested battle. And I think they may steal one at their home court for as good as they are on the road. And OKC's home court advantage is going to pay off huge dividends. If you want to know how many times they've won by at least 30 points in this year's playoffs, it's 4 times. 2 of them against Denver in that 7-game series. Jokic gave them a test, and so did Aaron Gordon. But OKC passed that test. They passed another test in Minnesota, handled them comfortably. Indiana, the final test, but I think we believe that they handled that comfortably.
I think so too. I do want to give a shout out, and I know it's small, and I'm not picking on the teams when I say this, but congratulations to the Rockies. They won a series against the Marlins. They won 2 games in a row.
Oh, the first time they've won a series in 24 tries. And now it's a situation where they can go for, and they were looking to go for a sweep. I know how that went, but the Rockies, they wanted something. It would have been more than just a lost season, because simply calling it a lost season is the grossest of understatements to the Rockies. They did make the sweep.
They did. They won 3-2. They got the sweep over the Marlins.
Wow. And you know, Miami sports is seeing attendance rates decline, but the purpose of getting fans to come to your games is to build a good team around them. And the Panthers are getting fans to their games because they built a good team around them.
Yep.
The Heat built a good team around LeBron James and Jimmy Butler in separate eras. That got fans to their games. Even the Dolphins, they got fans to their games because they had a good team around Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill to some extent. But it's mostly been the Heat and the Panthers and those times in which they got fans towards the stadium. The Marlins, I think, is going to be the start of a painful rebuild. And I don't know how long it's going to go, but they have a building block in Xavier Edwards.
Yeah, they do.
We're wondering, this never-ending question, when are they going to trade Sandy Alcantara?
I felt like that should have probably happened about 3-4 seasons ago, Alec. As you mentioned, the rebuild is not really even started yet outside of X and Xavier Edwards. But you know what? I will say this. To your point, Paul Maurice, he was asked that question as far as Panthers culture, Heat culture, and everything else that you brought up. And he goes, I hope it embodies all the teams in Miami. There's room for everyone. And as you mentioned, once teams find success, that's all it takes for fans to be able to enjoy the product. They just want to see success on the other time, and success will build more fans to come watch your games.
Paging Dwayne Wade, Dan Marino, and Alonzo Mourning, maybe?
Yes, that's really what it takes. That's all it is. I mean, look on the other side for the Tigers this year. Again, over the last few years, their attendance hasn't been very good. I'm not just shouting it out because they're the currently best team in baseball. They did get smoked by the White Sox yesterday, but now it looks like they're bouncing back on the right track again. But that's how it works in every fan base. You can't really call people bandwagon fans. They want to be where the party is.
That's me. On any of the Pittsburgh teams or the Rockets or the Hurricanes, you want to be where the fan base is to appease them, to build a good team around them. That's how you get fans onto the game. And the Tigers have built a good team around Tarek Skubal, to get Gleyber Torres.
Yeah.
And to add to the batting core that already has Riley Green, who's the face of the batting core.
I did notice, and I saw a quote from AJ Hinch that made me laugh that said Riley Green sometimes stays up too late playing video games. He is a night owl. I'm a night owl myself, so I think Riley Green might be my spirit animal.
Yeah, sometimes we're night animals because we stay up several hours past as midnight, but nonetheless, we've all been there.
That's the way it works. And also, I'll say this too, for anyone that's joining in on the fun. I think at some point we're all gamers. I guess the Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out today, so I know everybody's going to be excited about a couple more hours. I can't imagine a $500 price tag and then, $100, $80 for controllers and this and that. I think that's really where they get you. It's not the consoles. It's all the everything else that you need to set it up for it. They're really pricing us all out.
Yeah, they are. Things are getting way too expensive. It's time. I know it's time to hold companies accountable for raising prices, and you want to have things consistent. I like consistency better, so as to not get too greedy, and you want to appease the consumers, and I want to appease the consumers too if I ran a business. I know the hype behind Mario Kart Tour and Sonic Racing Crossroads. Those are two highly anticipated racing games coming out to Nintendo Switch 2. I know Mario Kart Tour going to have 24 slots on that, and meanwhile Sonic is announcing crossovers on their racing game with SpongeBob and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What is we're all the Paramount crossovers here or what?
Yeah, we are. They're feeding ads in all of our games too. That's what I'm thinking the same way. My homework assignment for anyone that listens to this a little bit later at any point that picks it up, if you pick up a Switch 2, let me know how it is and what you think about it, because supposedly now the problem is that when you actually buy the game on the card itself, if you buy a physical copy, you still have to download it as a digital copy, so you don't actually own what you buy physically. And that is the one common complaint that I have now. I understand It's a much different place today as far as what you own and what the rights are, but that doesn't sit right with me either.
Yeah, no. It's basically about differentiating between buying and getting up again, licensing something. But
Yes.
this whole differential is a little bit confusing.
So we're going to get into a lot of stuff here. Alec's going to get set to close it. We've had a pretty good lively conversation across the board. I had a lot of fun here with you, Alec, in this opener. And we'll see what happens here. 45 seconds left to go in the Edmonton power play. Alec and I deem this as a must score. He got the fresh sheet of ice. Honestly, it's been a while since the scrapages, as Alec mentioned too. I mean, it was going back and forth like crazy for about 12 straight minutes. Gustav Forsling, filled shot here for Bobrovsky. Draisaitl, high slot. Here's Bouchard. Now to Leon. Right side dot works his way to the back to it from the blue line side. Here's a drop for Bouchard as they kept to the outside. Power play to 10 seconds. They need a shot here. Haven't had one from the start of it. Draisaitl falls down to make the pass. It's deflected. They were looking for Perry, but the Cats able to throw that one down. And Gustav Forsling, excellent work. Should be able to get their man out of the box. So well, some chains. This is a drop now from McDavid and flip back down. This will be stopped by Stuart Skinner as Evan Rodriguez is freed from his momentary prison. It is 1 minute expired from the third. The shot board reads 24-22. Cats perfect 10-0 when leading after the first 40. That's what they're trying to hold on to now. The Oilers have had 3 power plays, but they've been kept off the board with the extra man, 7 shots. Here's a 3-on-3. Chipped in off the end glass. I'm going to send this back to Alec here in about another 8 minutes as this is flipped back here. Off a long pass, and this was picked off nicely by Barkov. We'll flip it one down here for Brett Kulak. Again, plus minus has been very good for him. He's been second in the plus minus, the plus behind Jake Wallman. And you got John Klingberg, who's played much better. So this has been a much maligned blue line that has played excellent throughout this Stanley Cup, and they're going to need to play at their best because, make no mistake about it, the toughest matchup in front of them are the Florida Panthers. You could say the same thing for the Edmonton Oilers now. In between Florida, as these are the last 2 teams left, but Florida's already had some tough crossroads. They dispatched Tampa in 5. You got through Toronto, and Carolina wanted to have their comeuppances, but they only went through 5. This is sent back here for Bennett. Gloved by Skinner. He'll hold.
So a lot of players are falling down here in this bunch. But after that squander power play, you wonder what the Oilers are going to do. But so far, they've been holding their own. And so are the Panthers here. Sam Reinhart, good chance on Stuart Skinner as he got open. It's the wide open chances in which the Panthers are getting throughout that second period, which has worked. They only got 1 goal out of it, but they've had many good chances. And Skinner was able to stand on his head with crucial stops.
Yes, he was, and he's going to have to be on his P's and Q's, just like Sergei Bobrovsky here. 17:50 left to go in this third. John and I with you alongside Alec Nava. We're going to get set to switch off here pretty soon as it's picked up here for Ekblad. Stuart Skinner in his last 7 starts is profiled 6-1, 141, 944. As this is Lundell. This will be shoveled in toward the boards. Now to the left side, red one. This is some heavy battles for the vulcanized rubber right now when these 2 teams are at their best. And you know the Oilers, and alongside Stan Bowman, probably thought that they were going to play the Cats again and wanted to brace their personnel off of Florida and try to get their best chance to beat them. And this is the rematch that we've gotten again. This is what I wanted to see. Here's a pass from Marchand. Luostarinen on his backhand as that was fought off by Skinner. Brad Marchand has been excellent in this game as well. He's been excellent since he's joined the Cats. 16:55 left to go in the third. It's the orange and blue with the puck, trying to go right to left. Draisaitl gains across the red line. Mikkola has been stout on that blue line. Man, oh man, has he been good as a member of the Florida Panthers. And this will be sent back down. And from Klingberg. So left to right here for the Edmonton Oilers, right to left for the Cats. They're in the road whites and the blue pants, red striping. This will be punched in off the glass. Klingberg got to flip this one down. There's a big paw to the air from Perry. Connor McDavid, there's a sauce pass, trying to look the other way for Draisaitl. Again, double shifted alongside Chris Knobloch's squad. And Alec, I imagine that won't change here for the rest of this third. But I'll be interested to see when we start Game 2 on Friday if they'll start back on separate lines again. I imagine they would, as this will be sent back down. and off the glass. Florida can come at you in waves with all their personnel. They're just trying to get a couple game breakers on there to get through Florida's defense. So I get the point of doing it. Jordan Gadjevich, who was beat up and missed some time, I do see him out there now on the shift. So Florida is back with their same amount of personnel on that fourth line. Gadjevich has been good alongside Nosek and Greer, although no Greer. He got Jesper Boquist today. Sent back around the inboards. Picked up now for Boquist for a moment. And here's a sauce pass. Bounced in off the end glass, away from the red line. 15-30. Here's a pass from Nurse. Left side red line. Perry. Vander Kane, as he got smoked up near the right side of the red line. Now back to the Cats in their own end, trying to make this clean. This one will be sizzled across the backhand of the Oilers logo. As this will be a spin for Podkolzin, and he staffed it. Verhaeghe pulls back. He shoots, and he hits the glass, but a good steal for Carter.
Good steal. Right on the rush for the second line. Verhaeghe has been one of the main benefactors and a frequent playoff hero so far for the Panthers, with 5 overtime winners with them in his time there. But nonetheless, the Panthers there still rolling. And I feel that both teams are getting a sense of feeling each other out starting this third period.
Yeah, I think, Alec, to your point, this third period start is what I thought the second it was going to be, some settling down. And as we talked about from that second for how fast this was, we have to get another drop again. I think both of these coaches probably pressed on that and said, guys, we've got to make sure that we're more clean in every zone entry because things got too out of control in the last set of 20.
Yeah, especially the first half of the second period. They cleaned up from the sloppy play in the first half of the second period and cleaned it out in the second half.
Here's Marchand now off the drop from Lundell. As this one will be sticked by Darnell Nurse. Marchand now tries to go ahead and get a piece of it from Skinner. While chasing toward the right side boards. It's just so crazy how well he's fit in. And again, I know it's Brad Marchand, instant Hall of Famer, but he feels like he was always supposed to be a part of this team. This will be dropped now from Kulak, and he tried to throw a back pass for whatever reason, and that's going to allow Anton Lundell to be able to hunt the puck. And now Florida had to commit one of their forecheck. No problem. They're just losing some edges here was Mikkola. He fell unabated. Nobody was near him. This goes back from Bobrovsky now for Erod. And so we'll skate this one ahead and slam this in around the end boards. 14-10. We'll have to go in the third. Florida still up 3-2. This almost feels now like the 2-1 Game 7 win. I know this is Game 1 here as far as this has started off the pace. Good pass from Perry, but that one got cut off near the left side of the post. Draisaitl now. He's punched it against the end boards of the right side red line and flipped back down. Shot board 25-23. Again, Florida, their latest goal was in the second period in the mix and around the end boards of Victor Arvidsson. Again, ESPN's got something way out in front of me. I want to see if that comes to pass. As this is picked up now to the right side off the drop. Here is McDavid. Scores! Ekholm! I saw it on my screen, but it was way ahead. I guess they saw the future. We're tied.
Oh, we got paid a visit from Trunks from Dragon Ball. He was the one running ESPN at this last moment. Connor McDavid, seeing ID, and Matthias Ekholm in his second game back. He had an assist in Game 5 against Dallas. He's got a goal in his return. Hey, big high-end defensive defenseman can chime in too. We know Gustav Forsling and Matthias Ekholm, who was the Nashville Predator, one of their premier defensive defensemen on that 2017 team. He found it far side on Sergei Bobrovsky, caught him out of position. It's a tie hockey game.
That's crazy. That was up there about, honestly, Alec, 45 seconds ahead. I was trying not to stare at it. But as you said, Trunk, somebody saw the future. We're tied at 3. Shot board now only behind by 1 is Edmonton. It looks like we're going to have that down the wire game. McDavid, Kapanen's got another point. And Matthias Ekholm's just come back. This is his second game. He's already got 2 points in 2 games. This is sent in behind the inboards now. McDavid, and we'll give that part of the primary. Jonah Gadrich now on the fourth line. Push this one ahead. Jesper Boquist, he's been from the first, third, and fourth. He takes a heavy hit. Tomas Nosek throws it in behind the inboards. That was a gigantic goal for Edmonton because they really need, in my opinion, to take this opening game, set the tone here against the Cats, who are so good on the road. And that would turn it all the way around for the Cats to get a must-win essentially on Friday because they haven't been very good on home ice at Amerant Bank Arena. Here's a rolling puck, stick to side. And this will be flipped back down. So Connor McDavid, Kasperi Kapanen answer from a 6:33 goal from Matthias Ekholm as his shot went to the middle of the right of the mesh and in. It was a CNI shot. It was a good one off the setup. Sent back in behind the red line and stopped by Bobrovsky. He held it enough to draw the whistle.
And the chants here are deafening. That's how passionate this fan base is. We don't know it's going to come to the point where the whole city of Edmonton may have to be shut down because of the anticipation of a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
They know that the Cup has not been in this city in 35 years. The Cup hasn't even touched this country in 32 years, save for any days with the Cup from any of the Canadian players, such as Sidney Crosby. But still, the bottom line is that there's one goal in mind: revenge. They promised that they were going to meet the Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final again. The Panthers also promised they'd meet the Oilers again in the Stanley Cup Final. Here we are again.
Yeah, we are. And again, I want to steal the meme because I'm seeing this on the commercial side. I know I don't normally quote memes, but we're getting Happy Gilmore 2 before GTA 6.
Well, for another year, that is. Still waiting out for GTA 6, which is going to be on the next-gen consoles, Xbox Series, and PS5, that is. But nonetheless, it's still highly anticipated. It's going to be a map that is an inspiration off of the state of Florida. It covers Miami, covers Tampa, and it covers Orlando, or at least a variation or inspiration of it, even Key West.
That's pretty cool. That almost gives me, and this is making me of my teenage days, of Vice City type vibes. I think that would be pretty cool if they were able to pull that off. And we're going to enjoy it. And I'm going to give this here to Alec in another minute. Big goal for Matthias Ekholm, Connor McDavid, and Kasperi Kapanen. McDavid's already got 21 helpers already. I know sometimes we'd like to say, and I haven't said it during this game, shoot the puck. I guess it doesn't matter because he's always the dish master.
He is. We talk about his goal scoring under the coin a bit, but you cannot take away from the fact that he loves to dish out dimes and apples for open men.
Yeah, he does. There's going to be a center ice draw and off the tie-up. Cats now have to find a way to get the next goal. Edmonton does too. Alec had mentioned that we did not get an overtime game in the series last year that went 7. It was epic, but the way that it started, it was 3-0 for the Cats, and then it was just bludgeoning, and 8-1 in Game 4. Games got out of hand. This one feels a heck of a lot more close. That was a ripper for Gustav Forsling, saved by the left pad of Stuart Skinner. And now there's a rolling puck that goes back to Gustav. And this will be sent back in behind the end boards. Again, his cap hit of about $5 million plus isn't too bad considering he was a waiver claim. So you could talk about that and say it's a little bit of a discount. But when you come from a waiver claim, that's a big payday raise. McDavid, as he gets put behind the inboards for Niko, Mikkola has got a shadow on. 11:20 left to go in the third. This will be slowed back down on the right side from Draisaitl. Now reverse hit thrown by McDavid. This will be flipped back out, rolling puck, good hand-eye coordination. At least gets us across the Oilers logo for the Cats. Draisaitl would have been offside. Lundell's pass. This one's picked off. Look out here. See if Edmonton can make something happen. This shot goes wide in behind the inboards. Bouchard will hold it with the glove hand. Alec, I might as well throw it to you as we get a stoppage, and I'll flip back over on the other feed.
But Bouchard's shot was going wide nonetheless as we get here with 10:58 to go here in the third period. Tying goal for Matthias Ekholm on a beautiful set pass from Connor McDavid at the baseline. But we see the goals here coming in bunches. Leon Draisaitl getting the party started. And then afterwards, we're seeing the heavy physicality and the impact that Draisaitl has had in this game. It's been epic.
Yeah, it has. This game has had everything that you could ask for in a game one. Again, we talk about rematches and what they could bring. We've gotten a 10 out of 10 so far, and it's not done yet.
And with him on the bench, Nugent-Hopkins loses the draw. If we see Draisaitl make a huge impact later in this game, would not be surprised. Verhaeghe wrist one wide. Bouchard wants to get this one out. He gets some added help, but a race for this puck will be won by Florida for the icing.
So as it is, about 10:37 left to go in the third, and we are almost in next goal wins territory. About halfway through this third, again, Matthias Ekholm's goal was gigantic, and that puts that leading win after 2 periods by 10-0 for Florida in jeopardy.
And the Oilers, they're buzzing here in the third period. The third period is the frame that they love the most. They want to defy the odds. Florida is slight favorites here, but if Edmonton wins this, nobody will be surprised. Far side, 2 players fall down like bowling pins. One of them is Trent Frederick. RNH getting back as Evander Kane is struggling up to his feet and finally gets up. That was Kane, not Frederick. Back towards the right point, it is Ekblad. Right across up to the near corner. First one back is Bouchard as he gets this to Jake Walman. Walman has been a huge factor for the Oilers in this playoff run on the third pairing in name only. Verhaeghe brings it back. He's cut off at the near half boards. Spun around, was one of the Oilers, and comes back out to the far half boards. Ekblad got beat out. Bennett chasing after Walman in his path. Walman's stick got held. We stay 5-on-5. This gets poked around for the far half boards and then back for Forsling. Gus will get this one around to the far side, and a tag team on Verhaeghe. Tkachuk wanted to help him out. Verhaeghe gets hounded down, and this initiates the counter for the Oilers. There'll be stick checks from Forsling. Either way, he has to negate that. Down the ice, and it will be an icing as it did not touch anyone.
Yeah, and again, the previous camera shots that I got there in between Kane, Ekholm, everyone else trying to win these battles into the right side bumper because they know puck position at this point, get any sort of leak outs that might be enough to win this one as we get some more camera shots of Connor McDavid in an ozone draw.
I know the Panthers are a defensively stout team, but icing the puck against the Oilers is essentially the last thing you want to do if you were to go in a late game situation.
Yeah, you can't afford to do that because all it takes is one face-off win and a chance for a double shift from McDavid Draisaitl. It could be in the back of your net.
5 shots on goal for Evan Bouchard. Yes, 1 assist so far, but you believe that he'll be due for the breakout game. Guess who's on the ice now? It is Draisaitl, McDavid, and Perry. But it's Tomas Nosek winning the draw. The former Golden Knight gets this one down as settled by Klingberg. Klingberg fires her on the near side. Back up to the far half boards. Barkov was in the way. Out inside by Edmonton. Got onto the far corner. Goes in down low. Backhander. Wasn't in goal. That was waved off as it was just barely kept out. On the far side, the Panthers enter into the zone. We've had to check that one again to see if it does cross the line, but it looked like it never even did. The Oilers restart. This is McDavid and Draisaitl 2-on-2. McDavid to the outside. Jones scooped up by Big Bob and covered.
That one bounced off the right shoulder of Bobrovsky and rolled out away from the crease as McDavid was making a power move backhand toward the net.
Yeah, it was. Heavy is the crown. This is what we asked for. I know he's saying the letters in inverse, but we indeed asked for theater. We got theater.
Yes, we did. It's kind of interesting you bring that up there for Lincoln Park because that is what the Waterford Sharks mantra was in their repeat time. It didn't happen for me in Muskegon on the side, but I was there, and they played that a lot on social media. So every time I hear that, I get good vibes. I'm thinking about championships.
Yeah, you think so? And the NHL and TNT used 2 Lincoln Park songs. Not only Heavy is the Crown, as was the finals preview on tonight, but also from the playoff run up from the bottom as part of that From Zero Deluxe.
It's good work there and good choices there alongside. And again, we have a game that is going to come down to the wire again. 9:01 in the third. Let me just give you a quick little reset as far as the team stats now. Shopboard is now in favor of Edmonton, 26-30, 26-25. Hits are 41-35 Cats. Faceoffs 26-19 for Florida as well. But again, 3 power play opportunities for Edmonton. They did not score on any of them. The Cats went 1 for 2. My other critical question here for you, Alec, is are we even going to get another penalty call?
I don't think so. If it reaches overtime, I doubt there's going to be any penalty unless if it's clear and obvious. That's what we saw when Dawson Mercer high stick gets Verhaeghe in Game 5 against Carolina for New Jersey. And then Mark Scheifele clear and obvious. But he had to do that so as to prevent Sam Steele from getting loose.
I agree with you. I think that's what it's going to take. This one's going to have to probably be scored 5-on-5, and we'll see who plays better.
I guess we're going to be paging any one of the big stars to show up. 5-on-5, you normally think Florida, but most of the scoring has come from their top three lines. They're able to balance it out. The fourth line, they're able to sell that more into a physical forechecking role. Off the face-off, a long blast, rebound! And that one also stopped by Verhaeghe. He made two good stops. This pass a little slow for Sam Reinhart. And as we collect up on the far side, the Oilers all over that at their own defensive end. Nurse. His $9 million cap hit coming into question for the Oilers cap crunch. Moved out to the far side, Kulikov took it away. Kulikov, second step with Florida, is Barkov, right on the face of Nurse. Reinhart there too. They were first and second in Selke Trophy voting. Marchand trying to break free. Nate Schmidt sitting up in the slot. Marchand for the far outpours. Marchand fires. Skinner brought it out. Puck is loose. It is picked up by Edmonton away from the low slot. Edmonton hounded as Brett Kulak unable to scoop that one out. Lundell, baby Barkov, as some people label him. Kulikov shot blocked. Schmidt barely kept it in. Marchand for the far outpours on Nurse. Marchand centers one. Never made his way through. Schmidt faked the slapper. Over Lundell. Off the outside the post. Looks Arena picked it up right on Kulak. To the far side as they're tired Oilers on the ice. And finally they can change. Florida Panthers catch him on the line. Change they will not. As Edmonton has fresh bodies. 7:45 to go here in this first period. Alec Nava, John Ott. We are level at 3. Almost was a takeaway. But he picked up by Janmark. Up for Vasily Podkolzin. From the left point. Arvidsson gets cut out. Edmonton sets it down. Bobrovsky plays it for Bennett. Sam Bennett for the far side. Up for Verhaeghe. Arguably the best line for the Panthers now. Verhaeghe fires. That one took a block with one of the Oilers falling down, though. And for the left side, Edmonton gets it into the Florida zone. Ekblad. It was just held at the left side. It'll be kept inside by the Oilers. They're battling for it at the near corner. Scooped up and is brought back by Tkachuk for the Panthers as it was cut off towards the right point. Intended for Klingberg, who picks it up. McDavid's back on the ice. 7 minutes to go in the break. McDavid sends it for Klingberg. You'll wait. Klingberg across the red line. Fires it from 100 feet and Bobrovsky covers.
So on the Sportsnet coverage, admittedly, Brad Marchand is the one getting profiled. He just spun around Nurse and Draisaitl between 3 players at his own bench field to create that play that had the rebound on front, and then Lundell, as you mentioned, hit the outside of the post. And that third line, that was probably one of their best shifts in the wall there for the Cats.
And don't be mistaken. Lundell tried to bank it off the back of Skinner and have it go into the net. Sometimes you have to get creative with your shots.
Yes, you do, because that's what it takes to be able to beat these type of goaltenders when they're at their best.
Stuart Skinner is more than capable of that when he is on his A game. Off the face-off, the Panthers picking up their defensive end. From the near corner, Edmonton's trying to pick it up off the tie-up. Rodriguez also there. He can also play center. Picked up by Draisaitl. Back towards the left point. Now center point. Bouchard waits. He'll rip it. And it's stopped by Bobrovsky on the blocker. Picked up by Rodriguez as the Panthers will get set. On the opposite end, a stick black by Ekblad that negated the chance for Rodriguez. And Mikkola has some trouble with a stick. It'll be moved up by Jones. Edmonton takes it away. And they'll wait up with this. 7-2, third period shots on goal favor the Oilers as Bobrovsky covers the flip from Draisaitl.
Yeah, I don't mind that for Leon Draisaitl. We just mentioned how important these ozone draws are going to be here for Edmonton. I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to get some quick strikes. Initially, it was Lundell and Nugent-Hopkins, but now it's going to be Lundell and Kane on the draw.
And Kane can take some face-offs too. We noted about his ability to strive for greatness, and he can get to the net from hunt for the dirty areas of the ice, hunt down pucks along the boards, and even Kane can win face-offs. That's something that we never thought of.
No, not initially, Alec. He's turned himself into a pretty good player, and the most important thing for him is he's healthy.
Yeah, he's 100% fully healthy. We're no longer hearing news of his sports hernia after the surgery they went through last year in the offseason. Just to account for that, he missed all of the regular season, came back for Game 2 against the Kings. Marchand tried to flip it to himself. Klingberg kicked it along. R&H got this one back. It's Klingberg on the return. Klingberg trying move it up. Ekblad bumped it down. 6 minutes to go here in the final frame of regulation. Towards the penalty box doors is Kapanen. Tried to bring it back. His father, Sammy, once played for the Carolina Hurricanes in the 2002 run. Directed towards the near corner. Almost poked away. Klingberg held his own. Faked the shot. Now fires his shot. Rebound loose. And it just went up. Bobrovsky sailing wide. One timer left point. Bobrovsky's down. Holds his own as Kane was hunting a puck. And a commotion after the whistle.
I can't tell you, Alec, initially who got a piece of that with the stick shaft there for the Cats, but Bobrovsky's pass was not very good. This goes to the left side of the point. It gets brushed out. He does make the save, and it gets run into by his own man. But Bobrovsky got to be thinking his lucky stars there as he made a poor pass and trying to get it clear.
Yeah, he bailed himself out of that poor pass because that was not a good one. What's the line that Steve Dangle always says? If you're a goaltender, hand the goal.
Yeah, you got to do that at this point. You cannot afford to make a mistake. You already saw the exceptional setup that Connor McDavid made in order to get Matthias Ekholm in the left side circle and put that wrister home to tie this one up at 3. And you got to afford to make sure that you make the saves that are there and try not to do too much. I've noticed so far that Brad Marchand and that third line is starting to get double shifted a little bit here for Paul Maurice's squad. So he's trying to get some control reign back in the Cats' way. Oilers' third periods look pretty good. That's been a good response from the second. Even though, admittedly, Edmonton's got a goal in each period. The second was not their strong point, but they've got one in each. Florida has yet to answer here in this third. It's 3-3 with 5:36 left.
We know both teams love to play well in the third period, but at the rate that we are seeing, it seems like the Oilers have grasped the momentum firmly on their control. Momentum exists within games, game by game, and the Oilers right now, they have the momentum. We talk about how good Florida is defensively. The Oilers are holding their own defensively. Kudos to them.
Yeah, they are. They look like, again, you know you want to be game for this because you get the rematch. You got everything else that happened last year, and it was a little bit crushing, but they come all the way back. You build your lineups. You get everything locked in there. You got Chris Knoblauch with more experience. And, yeah, they look just as good as Florida does right now, and that's what you want to see when you get a potential rematch.
The last year was Florida with unfinished business as they lost to the Golden Knights the year before. This year is the Oilers with unfinished business. The Panthers may be feeling a bit of pressure on their own, but they already won a Stanley Cup. Their pressure on them is not as big as what the Oilers are facing now. Off the face-up, it'll be grabbed by the Panthers, and they'll clear it out through center ice. Bouncing right in front of Skinner, the icing is negated. Kulak from his own zone just gets it out. This will be wide of Bob, and it will be an icing.
The shot attempts this period, to your point, as far as their good third period, is 11-2 Edmonton.
Yeah, that says it all. And that's what this is the big difference of why the Oilers have a massive advantage on the momentum here in this third period. As we noted, they're profiling that bad pass to Bobrovsky. That was not a good one. No, he's got to be better than that. Oilers win a defensive zone face-off with 5:20 left. But they're having trouble here. One-timer. Loose in the slot. Picked up by the Panthers. Not for long, though, as the Oilers grab it. Kapanen will send it near corner. And Kapanen will try to hustle it. Ekblad grabs it up. Second period shots on goal were 17-8 Panthers. But third period shots on goal in favor of the Oilers. Towards the right point, as one of the Panthers went down. Kapanen in pursuit. Sets up right in front. And almost got by Bobrovsky. He had to make a big save there. Towards center ice. Kulak let this one go. It'll be Nurse controlling. This is a second pairing, but it can be between this one and a third. It can be between either second pairing or third pairing. You would not be wrong. Nurse gets it off the skate of Jones, collects his own dump it through the far corner. That tight battle as it's Draisaitl mixing in and matching it. Barkov's out there. The pass almost swiped away, and because of that, because of the stick region, it was too far for Sam Reinhart. Intercepted by Barkov. Barkov trying to pass it in front. Skinner with a big save. And the fans applaud that. Cleared out to center ice. Where it's grabbed by Jones. Re-entering is Barkov. He is shoved out the way. Harry wants to set up. No lane is being set up now as Bouchard gets this down the ice. When we collect up in the far corner as Kulikov gets boxed out, but he does a good job holding his own. Dig up onto the left point. But Jake Wallen long shot. That was a slow moving one, and it's gloved by Bobrovsky.
If that pass that initially gets picked off by Barkov then doesn't get played by Bouchard on the other end, if he doesn't partially block that and force Barkov to the left side red line, Cats probably take the lead with under 5 minutes to go, and that would be a death sentence. Bouchard made a nice defensive play there.
We know Bouchard's defense has been a point of discussion when Canada was making a roster selection process. Good Bouchard is putting a chip on his shoulder because despite his excellent playoff performance, remember he was left off the Four Nations roster in favor of Thomas Harley. I felt that he is a little bit salty about that. Lundell trying to get this one off the draw. He gets his two looks to read it. Two Finnish countrymen who were together on the Four Nations face-off. Right point control by Henrique. Brown swing and a miss. Grabbed by Schmidt. Schmidt hounded by Brown. Loose stick on the ice. Pride free by the Cats. It'll be cleared out as the Oilers make their changes. Klingberg with 3:30. How much more are we going to see of this being an even slate? Who is going to score the next goal? Center inside by Arvidsson, but Colson got to it first. Brought back up. Milkshake got in the way. Boquist. And Marchand gets tied up. We talked about him getting double shifted more by Maurice. There was a stick in the lane that did not get the front for Marchand. And all the way back is Ekblad with Forsling. Forsling slapped this one towards Boquist. It'll be Skinner playing this one out. Skinner has to be careful as it's bounced towards the far side. Grabbed up by the Oilers. And he'll send this down the lane. Ekblad. Stick into action. And another stick. Recollecting his Edmonton as they re-enter. Driving down as Vesely by Colton. Colton tried to tuck it. Bobrovsky. Close the doors. Back down low and send it for Kapanen. Could have handled that one as Forbes at the other 42. Back behind the net. It's poked free. And Ekblad has it. Sent this one down the distance. Will this be an icing? It will not. Did not get enough. Let's go Oilers chance here. With 2:25 left in the third period. Darnell Nurse wakes up and sends this to distance. There have been two multi-goal comebacks in the Oilers. One shy the franchise record for a single postseason. One of those involved of the Kings and the other the Golden Knights. Swing and a miss as Arnage held his own. Nate Schmidt right behind the net. With 2 minutes left. Matthew Tkachuk for Sam Bennett. Cleared out for center. Bouchard. Bouchard got it for Perry. Perry slows up. Sends it towards the near side. Mikkola got in the face of McDavid. Mikkola putting on the afterburners. With the far side is Tkachuk, who slowed up. Now back behind the net is towards Skinner. Skinner playing it towards the far side. Bounced onto the center ice. 100 seconds left in the third. It'll be fired back inside and it'll be collected by Skinner as this was a slow-moving puck. Held in by the Panthers is Reinhart, or rather Rodriguez, wanted to look. Back around the boards as it's Mikkola had pursued the puck. He held his own. Got back for Rodriguez. At that far corner, sharp angle shot was turned away by Skinner. For the far side, the Oilers want to clear it down. They'll get a 2-on-2 the other way. McDavid can't get by Jones. He'll be collected up by the Panthers as they'll smoothly skate their way. Kapanen got in the way of Reinhart. Reinhart still holds onto it, bluffed down by the Oilers. Around for Klingberg. With approaching 1 minute to go here in period number 3. Back across for Woolman. Woolman sent this one down the distance. It'll reach Bobrovsky. He decides not to cover. He'll play for Forsling. Towards the near side. This will bounce all the way down the distance. And a chance for the Oilers to take the lead here of 49.7.
And you never know, that misplay there from that pass to try to get there for Forsling and keep it going, that might result in something, but that was a good power move for Pod Colson.
And the fourth line getting the action done. We know the fourth line does not have a natural center to utilizing Matthias Janmark as their center, but it could be something here for the Oilers off this icing. They're getting the big guns out there, and all the fans are on their feet.
Yeah, this is a measure of the moment right now. Edmonton has a chance to finish this off in regulation.
Could be the case here, unless anything else happens as Bouchard waits. Broken six on the ice. Bouchard, deflected shot. It's swept away. Connor Brown's there. Brown wanted to send this one behind the crease. Brown fed this one up onto the far corner. Back behind, it is Draisaitl. Draisaitl, who was tied up 30 seconds. Looking right in front. That's it is back out. Bouchard, long shot. That one went wide as Marchand can't get this one up. And this will be yet another icing with 18.4. Marchand's upset.
And it looked like Paul Maurice wanted the face-off dropped into another situation. That's what I'm looking at right now to see maybe they might change it. But Marchand, I got some camera shots. That's got to be a lonely feeling to have to shadow Marchand stride for stride without a stick play, but he actually didn't do a bad job.
Yeah, I thought that puck exited out of play. When we look at the replay, the officials never saw that. But because that puck exited out of play, regardless, it's going to get a face-off inside the Florida zone.
Yeah, and as you said, that's what Paul Maurice was trying to make sure it didn't happen. It's going to be Barkov and Draisaitl in on the draw. The Selke Trophy winner, the reigning one, is one of the very best, but Draisaitl, if he gets a little help, maybe you get McDavid on that off wing, try to get something materialized. I think you got to push right now for your Edmonton with this ozone draw.
Your Draisaitl, you got to tie up Barkov
Yes.
face-up. You get that puck support from McDavid. So that's just set up a winning chance here.
That's exactly what I would do, Alec, too. I'm glad we're in lockstep with that. I think if you're Edmonton, you got to go. And now I'm looking on the side, I know a little bit ahead of you. Just want to make sure, reiterate. Now they're putting extra time up on the clock. It was 18.4. Now it says 25.3.
That was because of the puck hitting the mesh. And because of that, the Oilers don't be on the beneficiary. So even for Paul Maurice noting that, I feel that we would have expected this from Chris Knobloch as well. Because if you put time back on the clock, because the puck hit the mesh, that could benefit the Oilers.
Now we'll see what they can do here with this draw.
As Francis Giron does put the time back, the timekeepers did a good job monitoring the situation. As Draisaitl, speaking with McDavid, the Panthers have won 30 faceoffs, the Oilers 22. McDavid on the right wing, tie up on the draw as we saw. It'll be Rodriguez grabbing it, chance to clear again. Bouncing towards center ice. This time the Panthers, they'll be the beneficiary of it. For the far side, this one's sent out.
This will go back into the bench here with 15.3. We get a chance to sit away. Alex can take this away for us, but this crowd's really into it right now, as they should be. We might actually get the first overtime game.
Well, we have not seen any of that in last year's finals, but we were one goal away from it being the case. And not been for Gustav, Forsling, and Brandon Montour tying up Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman in that third period. Had not been for the heroics of Sergei Bobrovsky, and we would have had overtime. 13 seconds ago, the Panthers don't tie it up. Barkov's back to get it. Barkov, through the far side, a tie-up. And the Oilers bring it back in. Last-ditch effort here in regulation. 2 seconds. And one last shot. It goes wide. Game 1 requires overtime.
Shot board, it was heavily in favor of the Edmonton Oilers, too. Alec, they really took control of the third period. They got the goal they needed to press on. I'm glad that we got OT, all things considered. You know how I feel about it. I didn't mention it during the previous show. But if we're going to get a game as good as this, maybe this might be the best game we get throughout the whole series. You never know. So I know you and I are going to sink our teeth into it. This has been pretty epic.
It has an epic clash of epic proportions in this game 1. And the Oilers, they get the tying goal. They came into they had this first period with all sorts of momentum. And you would have thought that they would have scored the winner at any point. But Florida's defense did the rest. And Edmonton's defense did help their own.
Yeah.
The Panthers at bay. The Panthers won their lone overtime game. That was Brad Marchand. And a game that was filled with awkward bounces. The tying goal by the Leafs in that game was an awkward bounce. The winning goal, another awkward bounce. And both goals involved Morgan Riley. For the Oilers, they have no such awkward bounces, but they are 3-0 in playoff overtime games. 1-1 against LA, game 4. 1-2 against Vegas, games 2 and 5.
So we're looking at, as far as these numbers and the amount of takeaways, giveaways, sometimes I'll monitor that. Honestly, through the span of 60 minutes, there's only been a combined 20 giveaways, just 9 for the Cavs, just 11 for the Oilers. So they've done a good job as far as manufacturing with the puck. Cats did force a few more takeaways, but it is just 7-3. I just keep in mind that shot board. Shots on goal, 36-26 now for the Oilers. Hits are 43-38. The Cats, only their big advantage is the faceoffs, 32-22. And those have been the most important, especially in that final minute. When the Oilers had it in the offensive zone, the Cats were forced to ice. As we mentioned with the power plays, don't think that there's going to be any more of those. The Oilers were 0 for 3, so if they lose this game, that would be something that you probably think about. 1 and 2 for the Cats. As far as your complete reset, I'll do that now to give Alec a break. So it was Leon Draisaitl, 106 from Kasperi Kapanen and Jake Wollman. There's a good screen from Evander King. Draisaitl up near the right dot, finishes it off. And then we had some traffic out in front of the net. Sam Bennett was cleaned out a little bit by Kulak and Wollman. And then the shot from the point for Verhaeghe was put in by Bennett from Tkachuk at 10:49. Brad Marchand, after the failed challenge, it gives the Cats a power play. He scores. Cats lead 2-1 after 1 from Nate Schmidt and Evan Rodriguez. Both teams were 7-0 when leading after 1. Sam Bennett then scores again 2 minutes into the second from Nate Schmidt and Carter Verhaeghe. Victor Arvidsson answers with a slap shot off the rush from the drop from Vasily Podkolzin. Podkolzin's had a good game. His chance at the right side of the crease was just denied by Bobrovsky 5-hole. He shut it down. Bouchard got his secondary assist at 3:17. It was the Cats' 3-2 lead after 2. They were 10-0 when leading after 2. But Matthias Ekholm had other plans as Connor McDavid worked his way in behind the net and protect the puck. Backhand sets it up for Ekholm near the left side dot. He wrists it past Big Bob. 6:33 in the third. Kasperi Kapanen has a couple of points as well. And as it is, we're tied at 3 after 60.
That's where we are right now. And what a game that Sam Bennett has had. What a game that Brad Marchand has had. And what a game that Kasperi Kapanen has had in this game. He picks up his first 2 assists of the postseason while playing mostly on that second line. But even so, he gets slotted right next to Draisaitl or McDavid. Good things happen when you're paired next to either one of those two. And that's especially the case for Matthias Ekholm. And what a game that he has been having in his second game back.
I could say that, to your point, Alec, across the whole board. There really isn't anyone in this game between the Panthers or Oilers that I could single out as having a bad game.
Yeah, Stuart Skinner, ever since getting up that third goal, he's turned it on. And he wants to make sure that this comeback comes complete. The Panthers want to finish it like what the Avalanche did Game 1, 2022 against the Lightning to prevent a 3-1 comeback in a game. If you remember, the Lightning tried to come back from down 3-1 in that game. The Avs won in overtime thanks to Andrei Burakovsky.
So I'm going to look at this before we get actually into our predictions. Again, Wayne Gretzky's talking about some of that stuff in the second intermission. I shouldn't have my TV on very loud, but I'm guessing you need all the right points because it is the great one. Let me give you some baseball finals. The Rays win 5-4 over the Rangers. Blue Jays win 2-1 over the Phillies. They've been playing better of late. Guardians, they will gain a game in the AL Central. They shut out the Yankees 4-0. They just had the World Series rematch. And Alec and I, maybe when it comes to October and the late side of it, we might be profiling Dodgers-Yankees again. Nationals win 2-0 over the Cubs. That's a surprise because the Cubs fall to 38-23. The Pirates close out the Astros. They improve to 23-39. Astros get shut out to 33-28. Red Sox, it's the Angels. It's a combined 20 runs. Both Sox win by 2, 11-9. Brewers kill the Reds 9-1. Again, the Rockies get the series sweep over the Marlins. They're now 12-50. They've won 3 in a row. Mets currently up 3-0 on the Dodgers. Everything else in progress. Padres up 5-0 on the Giants and the Tigers and White Sox. Now the White Sox have 2-1 with nobody out. Their Tigers are only up 1. So if we lose a series to the White Sox, they don't have a lot of hair left. They might not have any left.
You got the Diamondbacks. They're up 2-0 on the Braves. Bottom of the ninth as Arizona trying to get the final outs. They got 1. They need 2 more. But the Diamondbacks, I don't know what is up with them as of late. But we know what is killing them. The pitching depth has been a problem.
Yeah.
Not with the starters, though. The bullpen has been a constant problem for the Diamondbacks outside that World Series run from 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you can't have that because when you're thinking about the NL West in the mix of the San Francisco Giants, San Diego Padres, and the LA Dodgers, Diamondbacks are 29-31 right now. They really need to get this win. You got Justin Martinez on the mound, and they have no margin for error. Diamondbacks probably going into this season, Alec, and I know how good they are, and it sounds shameful for me to say it this way, but their best hope is probably a wild card team.
But that's what I'm thinking. Wild card team at the very best for the Diamondbacks. I think that's their ceiling in a stacked division, like a division that features the Dodgers, Pirates, Padres and Giants. The Giants still in awe of their revival, but even for them falling a bit as of late, it's still nice to see them being competitive with Willie Adames and everyone around.
Yeah, that really wasn't expected. Again, now between the Blue Jays and Rays, you finally got some teams above 500. There was a point maybe a couple weeks ago, Alec, where every team in the AL East was below 500 except for the Yankees. And then when we go back to the West, it looks like the Padres now have rebounded and won some games. Because I know a couple weeks ago I was asking you what was wrong with the Padres. They had about 8 of 11 games where they scored 1 run or less, and they were really having a tough time. But there are some other teams that are starting to pick it up of late. If the Atlanta Braves didn't start so poorly, I think that they might have had a chance, but they're still just 27-32. Honestly, in between the Mets and Phillies, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't even think the Braves are going to make it.
Yeah, I think that poor start doomed them. And Ronald Acuna Jr. is just getting back onto the action. But it feels like a lost year for the Braves, which really stings.
Yeah, because their team's still really good across the board. I mean, you and I probably would have expected a Final Four type team over the years. It's the kind of talent that they have. Again, I bet it kills the Braves having to lose Max Fried and then him having the season that he's had for the Yankees. But I mean, the Yankees, Juan Soto didn't want to sign there. So when you get guys like Cody Bellinger and Max Fried and some of the other stuff, you already picked up Jazz Chisholm from that trade deadline before. I think the Yankees were smart with their money.
Yeah, they invested it wisely to address areas of key need. Max Fried Max Fried went from more cherries on top to a necessity because Garrett Cole was out for a good portion of this season with Tommy John. And now, not only with Paul Goldschmidt, but also you had Cody Bellinger there, as you previously noted. You have Bellinger and Goldschmidt, who has to address the holes on the roster. So to account for the losses, Juan Soto didn't want to stay. All right, you want to make up the holes in that loss. Soto went to the Mets. I know that's a flashy sighting, but depth wins you games and championships.
Yeah, it does. And I think that they did a good job, as we said, with their money. We'll see what happens if we get a Yankees-Mets type of World Series. I don't see that happening. I will be honest with you, Alec, because we're almost closer to the All-Star break than farther away from it. I will grant you that the New York Yankees probably come out of the American League and make it to the World Series. Now, there's a handful of teams that you and I could argue and select, but I do think the Yankees mark their own path. But for the National League, I know we can sit and say Dodgers all day long, especially if Shohei Ohtani is healthy and he starts to pitch. But the Mets have been pretty good. The Padres have had their run. The Phillies are still really good. I think the National League has some top-heavier teams that are going to make things a lot more interesting than the American League does.
I feel that same way too. But we wonder what would happen with the Dodgers once Shohei Ohtani comes back pitching.
If he does, again, I will stop whatever I'm doing to cover the opening game in which he pitches. I'm going to be honest with you, because if it gets to that point again, if he gets any sort of form back that he already shows at the plate, good luck to anyone else. By the way, I don't play a whole bunch of MLB The Show lately, but I came back from a 2-month hiatus to play. I played and got some cards. I actually pulled Shohei and then immediately sold him on the market for a bajillion stubs. I had to sell him because the value will never be higher. So I had him for about 2 days, and then I had to let him go.
Well, sometimes that happens.
So I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb here. My goodness, now the White Sox have the bases loaded. If I wasn't in a rain delay right now, I'm glad our game's in overtime because I can't believe the Tigers would lose 2 to the White Sox. But I want to go ahead and give you first dibs this time. Again, you got the first 10 minutes of this OT. Give me your OT heroes, Mr. Nava.
All right, so for the Florida Panthers, I know he has been on a tear in the Eastern Conference Final, but he has just 1 goal so far in this postseason. and he's been a crucial presence on that top line as the Swiss Army knife that can go up and down the lineup. Give me Evan Rodriguez for the Panthers, and that's not my Penguins bias is speaking. This is me being impartial of everything. He's effective with the puck, and he can attack players left and right. I think he may be due for a goal here. For the Oilers, though, he's also coming off a tear in the Western Conference Final, but also as well, that dominant play could lead to being a hero eventually. We haven't said his name a lot around, but he's shuffled in and out of the first and second line constantly. You can balance him out with McDavid, but you can have him centering his whole line. Give me Nugent-Hopkins for the Oilers.
You know, it's interesting. When you said Evan Rodriguez, I thought about it and looked at my notes, and I saw the 1 goal, but 10, 11 assists. I think he's been a good game. I was actually thinking about taking Evan Rodriguez, so I can't believe we're on the same wavelength there. But let me start with the Cats, and I'm looking at it right now. He seems like the type of guy. I already mentioned Sam Bennett, who's got a couple. I don't think at this point he's going to get the hat trick. I thought it was going to be an empty netter. I got to go with King Rat. Brad Marchand's had himself an excellent game. He looks like he's been all over it. I'm going to take Marchand. And for the Edmonton Oilers, I know it's too easy to take McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, so I'm not going to do that. I think we will leave those on the board to be fair. But I do want to go with a secondary name that I think that's had a pretty good game, and he might be due for one. He's already got an assist. Give me Kasperi Kapanen.
That'll be his second time he finds the back of the net in overtime after a series clincher in Game 5 against Vegas. He was endlessly wacky at that puck and for that overtime winner and what was previously a scoreless game. But nonetheless, when you hunt down pucks and get to the nets, that's when good things happen. I'd be thrilled if either one of Rodriguez or Kapanen get an OT winner.
Yeah, I think those are good names by us. And again, you don't try to pick up the flashy names all the time because I think it's unfair completely. So Alec and I try to keep everything as level as possible. Now, if we have multiple people in here that want to make picks, obviously if we get 3 or 4 of us or Cooper Hopkins at some point will join in, then that will be fair game. But at this point, I like our picks. I like the way this game has gone. I think it is going to take either a blue line goal or a second or third, fourth liner to probably get this one done today. That's just what it seems like.
Yeah, sometimes in overtime you'll get an unlikely hero rising the occasion. We think of unlikely heroes who's doing such. Pat Maroon, Barclay Goodrow, Brock McGinn, and all throughout that 2019 run. Carl Gunnarsson. But sometimes you would think of the big names, Erik Karlsson, Connor McDavid. You think of those two that rose the occasion to deliver overtime winners in the playoffs. It could still happen either way, but it may be a depth player showing up here.
Yes, it can, Alec. And again, I'll mention this. You know, we talk about the second period and the lack of ice scrapage. That seemed like a very long intermission. This overtime one seemed a lot shorter.
Yeah, it was. Spent much shorter than what we saw for that for the times in which we spent in the second period on the commentary. That was like 16 straight minutes on commentary. No ice scrapage. That was so crazy.
Yeah, we had a lot to do, and I think we've had a lot of fun during this broadcast, and I'm glad that it gets to be fitting to OT because I'm just hopeful that the rest of this series is going to be this way. I don't know. As I said, I thought maybe this could be maybe the only OT game that we get, maybe one more. So let's enjoy it. You get set to take it away for the first 10.
All right, here we go. Alec Nava, John, I here with you. This is overtime of Game 1. The winner will set the tone here in the Stanley Cup Final. We had no overtime games in last year's final. Panthers immediately go on the jump as Kapanen is out there, rushing it in front, and that one wide for Florida. Seth Jones just held his own. Barkov, no one punch of Reinhart. Skinner had to pursue that, and he shot off Reinhart 3 times.
Yeah, that's excellent work because you're right. He had to step up right near the right side of the crease. And if Reinhart didn't actually have to put on his best juggling act, dude, he bounced that twice out of midair.
That's the type of effort that you see in a circus that's out of midair. And sometimes you would see that in baseball, too.
Yeah, it was heavy skill. That's pretty nice to see. And now an ozone draw for the Cats.
3-3 after 3 were the opening stages of the first overtime. We'll go on for as long as we need to. Bouchard gets it out. Immediately the Panthers jump out with momentum here in overtime to Mikkola. Tried to backhand it away. The Oilers all over it. The puck is grabbed by the Cats. Moving up through the middle. Towards the left side, it'll be Lundell. Wide to Skinner. And another save there for Stu. To the far side, grab Marchand. Marchand fires. That's stopped by Skinner again. Lundell grabs it. Back towards the point. Seth Jones' shot. Skinner another save. Jumping onto his Ekblad. Two righties on the ice on the defense pair. Far side as it's picked up now by Lundell. Right out in front, the pass blocked. It'll be grabbed by the Oilers as they go the other way. For the counter. Draisaitl wants to find McDavid. Draisaitl's tied up. It's picked up now by Connor Brown. Brown up to the far side. Oilers won a penalty. We stay 5-on-5 as Verhaeghe sends it back for Ekblad. 36-30. Now the shots all go under. It was 36-26 Oilers entering this overtime. Let's go Oilers chance here ringing around for Rogers Place. Near side as this bounces up will be grabbed by Verhaeghe. Around the near side. Intended for Matthew Tkachuk. He's been a frequent overtime hero in 2023. Scored 3 overtime goals, 4 game winners in that run. Dimitri Kulikov going right wide for Nate Schmidt. Left point. Schmidt throws one towards the goal. The rebound is close. Comes behind the crease. Right free by Verhaeghe. Up for Kulikov. Back for Verhaeghe. Looking for 6. Way up overtime goal. Another save by Skinner. It's grabbed by Clayburn. Bennett on his face. Arbison gets it out. Fired back inside by the Panthers. Takes a block off of Jake Wallen. It'll be going towards center ice. Inside is Barkov. Barkov's backhander. Swept wide above. Back at the near side, it is Florida with Jesper Boquist, who is filling in for an injured A.J. Greer. Brett Kulak at the near corner. He gets this one out towards the near side. Milks it. Got his man up. Adam Henrique was offside. The Oilers had to retreat. Florida from the near side, Seth Jones. When you go on the far side, is Boquist. Boquist looks. Boquist fires. Blocked by Kulak and grabbed by Edmonton. Henrique gets it out. Fire back through the far side. Oilers in the way. It comes back for Mikkola. With Trent Frederick watch, and he'll go for his change. Jones enters. Seth Jones fires this one up high and wide. Grabbed by Reinhart. Drop pass. Back around. It'll be out of play off the deflection.
I really like this start for the OT for the Cats. Again, you got Schmidt, Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, everybody at the doorstep. Reinhart trying to get deflections, funnel it toward the net. Stuart Skinner's been excellent right now as far as what they needed. They're talking about most postseason overtime goals. It's been a lot of Cats here on the doorstep and alongside with Corey Perry as well for the Oilers.
Marchand has 4 playoff overtime goals, which fits him right behind Verhaeghe, Perry, and Patrick Kane on that list among active players. Draisaitl wants to get it out. It takes a bounce off of a body. Bouchard picks it up. He finds Connor McDavid. Jump starting to rush. McDavid shoots it wide of Big Bob. It's held inside by Bouchard, bouncing towards McDavid. At the near corner, McDavid gets his possession, bounces towards Bobrovsky behind the crease. McDavid gets it back out for Bouchard. Wakes up. Bouchard fires. And that was partially deflected wide. Near side, he'll be taken up by Erod. Fired around the near side. Bouchard will restart. Rodriguez still pressuring onwards. He'll have to go for his change. Kane's line is out there. Anton waits. Will go ring wide for Bouchard. Up the far side. This one deflected in. Grabbed by Jones. Seth Jones. His brother Caleb used to play for the Oilers. Dumped at the near corner. Jones braced himself and is taken away by Kane. Around to the far side. The Panthers trying to get it out. It bounces at center ice. Grabbed by the Oilers as they take it back up. Kapanen for the near boards. Bobrovsky playing this towards the far corner. Grabbed by Kane. Came out in front. A Clever! And that one stopped 94 miles an hour off the block from Walman.
Man, that one really hurt the other way. Lusterinen had to try to get a piece of that because that bounced out in front of Bobrovsky. And I'm looking on the other side for the Oilers. They touched the puck. There was too many men on the ice. It actually wasn't called.
That was a missed penalty. That was a call in which the officials had to have. But typically, you don't see these types of penalties here in overtime, especially the playoffs. But that block had to hurt for Lusterinen.
Absolutely. That was on the inside of the knee. My goodness.
Ouch. And the Panthers quickly, they'll send up the near side. Tkachuk gets fought up. He'll be picked up by Edmonton around the far boards on the pass. They'll go on the rush here towards the near side. Chopped away. That's Lusterina's 3rd block of this game. He has 4 shot attempts, and 4 shots on goal, rather, as Janmark gets tied up on the pass. Up the far side, played out onto the glass off the bench.
Now we're getting something in between Ekblad and Podkolzin, a little bit more than pushing and shoving at this point.
Yeah, at this point, it's wars for each other as Ekblad, he knows that it's either their last chance or staying put here for a potential dynasty because he is one of 2 key free agents, the other being Sam Bennett. The other one is Brad Marchand among the big 3. Ekblad, he wanted to get to Arvidsson's head, and Kulikov picked up Arvidsson afterwards.
They gave him a little bit of a slash, did Ekblad, on the other side for Edmonton. So we'll see how that gets picked up again off the missed call. That should have been a power play for Florida. We will get a center ice draw. Now Corey Perry having some words with the Zebras. They want to make sure they keep everything under control.
It's veteran leadership is useful, and of course, accountability. That's what everyone needs to take. Take accountability, not only for your actions, but also for everyone else's actions.
That's what you got to do right now. You got to keep things clean enough right now. You got a game to win in OT. Can't afford any mistakes.
Barkov wins another one on McDavid. Jones will find it towards the far side and fired aside by Mikkola. At the near corner, Reinhart's tied up. Barkov arriving for support. Bouchard with the puck. To the far side, the Oilers, they get crashed on by the Panthers. They'll be taken up at the near side by Jones. Opposite side is Rodriguez. Wastes his way past an Oiler. Rodriguez fights around the far side. Reinhart tried to get it. Bounced out towards Rodriguez. Rodriguez fires. Can't save. Skinner. Picked up at the near corner. Cleared out by Edmonton. It's going to be a foot race. And no icing here as Jones will pick it up. Or rather, yes, it is an icing.
That was a heck of a shot there for Evan Rodriguez. If Skinner doesn't get a piece of that with the right glove, this would be absolutely be the ball game at that point. As he loads up in through the screen of Barkov. That is incredible timing. Skinner with an excellent save.
Yeah, right between the eyes to make sure that Skinner doesn't have anything to look at. And Barkov jumped to make sure that this puck gets through. 4-0 are the overtime chances in favor of the Cats. They've been the aggressor off the bat.
Yeah, they have. Now they get an ozone draw.
And the Oilers, they need to find a way to get out of the defensive zone. They've won 3 previous overtime games. One of them against LA, 2 of them against Vegas. Florida won 1 against Toronto. Near side it is Verhaeghe. Brad Marchand, a frequent overtime hero. Bouchard, he's tied up. Draisaitl who's out there. Marchand can't pick it up, but there's a tie up at the near side. Directed backwards away from the traffic. It'll be settled down. There was a shove, and it looks like it's a hand pass.
That's what we're going to call. No penalties here. Again, as Alec and I said, you're not going to see that unless it's completely egregious. And Corey Perry cleans up Ekblad and gives him a little stick chop in the back. How do you do?
I think the Oilers, they do have some wars for one another. They have some wars for Ekblad, not only with Perry, but also with T.S. Ekholm, who had enough of him.
I know I said this throughout the broadcast, Alec, but it's really hard to tell these 2 teams apart. I mean, Edmonton's playing just like Florida plays.
Perry's the only player on the Oilers roster to win a Stanley Cup previously, 2007 with the Anaheim Ducks. Both start for Tomas Nosek and Jesper Boquist to take this one against Adam Henrique. Who wins? Henrique, that is. Batted back by Frederick, opposite side between Nurse and Kulak. I haven't had a chance to say Frederick's name a lot, but he's been a physical presence all over the ice for Edmonton and Boston, for that matter. Sends inside to the far corner. Brown tries to hunt it down, but Bobrovsky pushed it away. The near corner. Nosek gets this one out. Is settled down by Kulak. Will mishandle for a moment as Boak was almost capitalized on the opportunity. Loose stick on the ice. We're approaching 6 minutes gone here. That loose stick came from one of the Cats. Moving up the near side, it is Boquist. On the far side, Gadjevich gets to it. Right behind the plate, Nurse. Wanted this one for Frederick as he'll slow up. Panthers changing. Nurse waiting. He'll drop this one back as Frederick boxes his cat out. Towards the near side, Kulak sends it in. Bobrovsky played this one out. The Jones, Perry, and the Tkachuk line back out there. Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk send it up through the near side. Skinner out the platers. Towards the near corner. Tkachuk trying to hold the zone. Can't do it. It'll be cleared down the distance. Niko will be the first one back. Niko, the former St. Louis Blue. Away from Kane. Jones gets shot by RNH. Tkachuk. On the near side. This bounced up and collected by Edmonton. Stick in the lane, but no further. For the near side. fired back by Kane. Bobrovsky can't play this one. The Oilers trying to hold. Hit. With the far side, the Panthers trying to move this one with Bennett. Out of the reach of Tkachuk. And he'll go for his change. Through the middle, here's the lead pass for Kapanen. Kapanen, going by for the defense. Oh, he almost got the winner. Oh my goodness, what is happening here? He just missed out on the game winner.
I can't believe that would have been the golden goal call. That was my hero, Kasperi Kapanen, to get the overhead. He splits to the defense of Mikkola Jones, and then a robbery with the right side of the glove by Big Bob.
That was magical from Kapanen, an even bigger save by Sergei Bobrovsky. He's been in this situation before, and he's been here. That was off the skate of Bobrovsky, and Kapanen a little upset by it as the Panthers win his base up. Rodriguez. That's my Panthers pick. RNH is my Oilers pick. And no more fact that your Panthers pick is Brad Marchand. We'll see if he can get the winner. This gets right onto the stick of Seth Jones, but fired back by the Oilers. A tie up on the near side. One timer never made his way towards the net. Pairings out there. He scored 5 times before in overtime in the playoffs. Right point control by Bouchard. Ekholm's throwing up. Ekholm's long shot. Loose rebound right in front. It was juicy. The Panthers managed to clear it out. And this will be yet another icing as Stuart Skinner calls for such.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was a save by Bobrovsky, but it's right out in the middle of the slot. Let's take a look how it happens. McDavid trying to get around the Ekblad screen. He fights it off with the stick handle, but it gets right near the right side dot. And McDavid almost able to spin around Ekblad. Ekblad has had his hands full today.
Yeah, there was a massive humanity over the slot. And because of that time, the Oilers can't get to the rebound. Good job by the Panthers to completely box them out. McDavid pursuing the puck out the face-off. It's held inside the left point with Bouchard. And it was chopped away at. This will be collected up by Ekholm. Opposite side, Bouchard, who fires his deep. Ekblad will be the first one back. He and Jones out there on the ice as two righties. Shoved away by Draisaitl. And another icing by the Panthers. No, it'll be Stuart Skinner who will play this one out as it was last touched by Edmonton. Darno Nurse will reset from his own zone with Losterreed watching. Fertilized out there for the Cats. And up the far side for the entry. Picked up by Janmark. As Markosen cutting towards the front. Janmark gets stick lifted by Losterreed. Losterreed dispossessed himself. He'll be gloved down by Mikkola. Picked behind by Skinner. Stuart Skinner towards the near half boards. Arvidsson got boxed out of the way by Lundell. Arvidsson gets it free. And the Oilers will reset. A shove as we set down. Foot race. Icing his way off. Forsling ties up Janmark. Niko gets this one free. Poked away by Connor Brown. He's back out there. Klingberg to Wallman. Wallman can't get this one towards the net. Just block. He gets it back though. Wallman almost tripped up. Towards the right side is Henry. Has one in front. Another great save by Bobrovsky. Played out by the Panthers, but it's not all the way out. And it's cleared down by the Cats. With 10:50 and yet another icing.
Are you kidding me? Jake Wallman able to stay on his feet, one-handed on his knees, as this one's floored to the backhand side. Bobrovsky from Henrik. It's Frederick wide open, but he can't get his stick on enough. All he can do is slide, and Bobrovsky able to get over to the left post and make the save. My goodness.
Usually that goes in, but because Frederick was not able to tuck that in properly,
Right.
His game is still going. We'll see if this ends here as RNH gets tied up. Oilers get to the puck. Play this one back out for Wallman. Klingberg to Wallman again. Jake Wallman waits. Sends one up. RNH. Shot is blocked. Almost got his own puck back. Shoves Lundell out of the way. Nugent-Hopkins trying to find the man down low. RNH can't get to it. Marchand. Play this one out to center ice where Klingberg's there. Gets shoved towards the Oiler bench. And I think it's a good time to have you taken away.
All right, we'll see how far this goes with the next 20 and send it back to Alec if we need it. Picked up toward the right side now for Kapanen, who just hit a post and up the right pad of Bobrovsky. Sent back now for Tkachuk. He tries to battle near the right side dot, and this will be flipped in. Who will get to the puck first? Be an opportunity to the right side for Verhaeghe. He tries to flip it. He can't get it out. This goes to Ekholm. He's wide open. Lets the bomb go. Left pad save for Bobrovsky. Forsling's been out there for 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Kulikov almost the same now. These guys are gassed. This is a good opportunity for Edmonton to win the game. Here's a slap shot from the point of Bobrovsky. Gets a much-needed hold. He lets his guys take a breath.
And he needed that because the Panthers are gassed. They had tired players on the ice as a result of multiple icings because the Oilers are hounding his own way too much. You can only do too much if you're the Panthers. Now you get a breather, paired with the ice scrapage. And for Gustav Forsling to beat Mikkola, take a rest.
Shot board now 41-27, Alec, if I saw that right, as TNT is cycling through their replays in the game recap. Dare I say it, this may be game of the series.
It might as well be. We know game of the playoffs being Winnipeg, St. Louis, and the Manitoba Miracle. And we think of Niko Rantan's revenge being another good benefactor of good greatest games of this year's playoffs. But this has been perhaps the best game of the finals. And we have yet to play the other 3 at the maximum 6 games.
Yeah. No, it really has been. And again, it's interesting the way that this one started. Florida had the first 5 chances in OT, but yet now they're heavily getting out destroyed on the shot board, 42-29. Bobrovsky has made 39 saves. He has been terrific. And Stuart Skinner, not too bad himself, 26-29. But I think we can say it at this point. The only reason why Florida is in this game is because of Bobrovsky.
They are. Even at 36 years old, he can still get his teams to victory and effectively goaling them. If you're the Panthers, you need to ride that up and get a good few chances. Maybe you'll get a winner.
Yeah, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to have to take some glorious efforts, some rebounds, some traffic out in front. That was what Florida tried to do with the bevy of chances with the start from 5, and now Edmonton's been able to get some puck possession because you had guys like Schmidt and Kulikov that were stuck on the ice, Forsling stuck on the ice for over 2 minutes. Again, they're showing some of the time on ice. It's getting heavy here, and this is only the first game of OT. I know we're going to have a lot of travel between games 3 and 4. Same way between Florida and Edmonton, but there might be a reason when we get the 3 days off.
Yeah, that may be the reason. Except when you get to game 5, you'll get 1 day off.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting. That'll be the next point we get to it. Again, we got Friday game 2 and then no weekend side. So it's going to be a lot to think about. Connor McDavid being profiled as he's on the ice right now. And yes, he's still being double shifted for Draisaitl. It's been that way since the second period. We got 9:20 of the first OT. Should we need it all? Tied at 3, sudden death. This is game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. It's a rematch from 2024. Again, Florida won the first 3. Edmonton came back, forced the game 7, 2-1. Sam Reinhart gets the game winner. Now this is an instant OT game from game 1 to start the year. Alec Nava and I are here with you, and we're going to take you all the way through. And thank goodness we're in the bullpen here to relieve each other because this could be a long one depending on what happens. It's now for Bobrovsky. And toward the right side, this one bounces off Evan Rodriguez. This one pinballed off of Janmark and sent back down. So again, Edmonton now trying to go right to left. Again, they are in the home jerseys this time around to start the Stanley Cup Finals. Games 1 and 2 will be at Rogers. They're all going to be about 8:15 puck drops, as this will be sent back down. The Cats have iced it again. They're starting to do that a lot, Alec.
They're very careless of them because you're going right under the Oilers' trap if you ice it again and again. And suddenly, you would expect that Chris Knoblauch would send the big guns out there. Draisaitl, McDavid, Perry, Ekholm, Bouchard. You know how fiery they can be when they're set out there.
Yeah, and you have to. I think at this point, you're double shifting the rest of the game. Here's a pinball overhead. Bouchard wants it back. Here's a slap from Kulak. As now I get a chance to look at the names again. That's way too zoomed out. Picked up now for Forsling. And behind his own, I think it's a hard hit trying to get this out of the zone. Reinhart have to punch it back in deep. But Florida still got some work to do. Ekblad. This goes right to Kulak. He lets it go quickly. And this is stomach the side and held in the glove by Bobrovsky as we get some pushing and shoving. But Edmonton has essentially, Alec, taken the last 5 minutes or so and turned it back in their favor.
If the Oilers end up pulling this comeback out, I feel Darcy Kemper has to say to Sergei Bobrovsky, I feel you, man. I feel what it feels like to be utterly dominated and get almost no support because the Panthers, they're forced back deep at their own zone after starting this early. But the Oilers have the legs to keep up with the Panthers.
You're absolutely right, because if you go back into it, and again, it almost seems like an alternate universe, but it's not. Kings had complete control. Darcy Kemper was terrific. It was 2-0, and then Kings gave the Oilers life. Wallman into the screen, and now they found themselves back in the Stanley Cup Finals in this rematch. Tkachuk bring it in around the inboards. There'll be a one-on-one. Bennett gets a chance to stop it. This will be gloved way out of play. 7:50 left in the OT should be needed.
Yes, and so far, that wasn't even a chance by the Panthers. And the Oilers, they pressed on everyone, the Panthers, and made sure that nobody broke free, that nobody would get to the front of that.
Yeah, I love the way that they played right now. Again, I've said the comparison a few times already. It's hard to differentiate between Edmonton and Florida, and I think that says a lot about Edmonton. Being able to take that physical play, match it with Florida, match that skill, match the forecheck and intensity. We know what Florida's trying to do. Two of the last three, like the Lightning did. Edmonton trying to get back here after losing in excruciating fashion. They did. And now they're trying to take this opener on home ice, which I think is fundamentally important for them. And then if they can also win on Friday, then we can talk about a completely different narrative, but not after game one. As this is sent back down. Nate Schmidt thought he had an icing, but I guess he thought wrong. Sent back now for Bennett. Tries to go length of the ice from left to right in the road whites. Bennett, sweet move. Off a 1-on-3 backhand. And this one will be shoveled here to Skinner, but Bennett was putting on his skating shoes.
Looking like the fourth overall pick that he was hyped up to be at the time he was drafted. We know about the number of pull-ups that he did at the combine gets brought back, but he's playing like a completely changed man now with his physical edge. And he's trying to take it himself, doing it himself to complete the hat trick. But the only thing that was in his way, the stick of Bouchard.
We know about the net front presence as 11 road goals tires Mike Scheifele for most in a single postseason. But when you think about it for Bennett, again, all the net front presence, the goals, the good shot, but if he's got hands like that, you know that 10 million plus contract's going to go north if he can continually make plays like that because he does everything. And that grit and sandpaper is the most important, but not the only thing. As this is sent back around now for Edmonton, who's trying to get it out of their own end. Bouchard got spun around, and now good forecheck the other way as Evan Rodriguez will watch this one bounce. Are they onside? Yeah, they are. This is picked up off the backhand for Nosek, and good work for him because he forced an ozone draw.
Good job. This was a backhand that was covered up by Stuart Skinner. Tomas Nosek guarded that 2018 Golden Misfit team as the fourth liner at the time that he was a winger, but now he's a center. He can take faceoffs too, but we didn't know that. We don't know how good of a talent that he is when on the offensive side. Most of these fourth liners are defensive players, but fourth liners can go on the offensive at times. That time Nosek did. He catches this one, kicks it to himself, kicks it up, and gets a backhand.
Yeah, when you talk about Nosek and Gadjevich, you can make some Boquist and all that stuff too. I mean, they've got 4 or 5 goals between them combined there. Plus, that third line is everything that you draw, but the fourth line is able to surprise you a little bit alongside that blue line between both of these are excellent. Here's a cross check against Kulak. That one not cold. And this will be slipped in across the red line now. Barkov bounces off the right side of the glass. He's out there with Evan Rodriguez. Barkov, the Selke and King Clancy so far for gentlemanship as this one gets sent back around. But he still needs 3 more, does Barkov of the Selke, to even tie Patrice Bergeron, because that's pretty much his award, as this is now flipped in toward the right side, spun back in behind the net, trying to keep some zone time. Toward the right side now, Ekblad, slap pass, intentionally wide off the inboards, and Skinner takes no chances, so hold, as we got 6:20 left in OT should we need it all.
So far, the Panthers, they are generating zone time. That shot may have went wide, but the Oilers are doing a good job still at boxing out the low slot. The time on ice is continuing to mount up, not only for Forsling, who is playing 30-31, but Ekblad is playing 30-49. The former first overall pick, we know he's heading elsewhere, but he doesn't want this to be his last series as a Panther.
I know it's a tough ask immediately in the moment, Alec, but I just want to get your general thoughts if you could. As you get longer and longer in OT, yes, it's important to balance out the roster in minutes and keep everybody fresh, but I would imagine if you're Paul Maurice and Chris Knobloch, you're probably also putting more time out there for your top line and McDavid and Barkov and all that too, because you just want to make something happen, correct?
Yes. McDavid's played just about 29 minutes so far, and all that time on ice is starting to creep up, double shifting.
As this goes to the left side, Nugent-Hopkins able to get that out off an ozone draw. Again, as we mentioned, Connor McDavid had just 25 minutes plus of time on ice twice. Again, the OT is going to throw that all out the window. They've been double shifted a lot since the second, as Alec mentioned. And now, as we get to the OT, you're probably going to see more of those because you want to see game breakers. Sent back in behind Lundell was the lone forechecker. And this goes back to Mikkola. And now, finally, I can say the Edmonton Oilers have iced the puck.
Nobody got up to the puck. The Panthers are trying to do is go for a change. In Florida, they get Seth Jones off the ice because he's completed his shift. And now the Panthers with the chance to end it in overtime. There was a broken stick on the ice, and Nugent-Hopkins, none too pleased.
Yeah, I was sitting there for a long time. Seth Jones doesn't look too pleased about something, but I definitely must have missed the play. Another O-zone draw. This will be off the tie-up. Bennett tried to find it, but this will belong with the Oilers. Try to keep it at the left side blue line. Flip back down again, no matter. This will stay in the zone. Jake Wallman, he really does look like he's still, I know he's probably heard about ice in that one, but I think something's probably still bothering him.
Yeah, something's still wrong with him. I think it might be pertaining back onto the shot block he took.
Yeah.
And I think the hit that he took. I don't know how long that's going to be bothering him, but we know that he may be playing through the injury in game 2.
Yeah, especially when you get at this point of the year, that shot block on the right side of the knee was about 90 miles an hour, and there's not a lot of padding. It's picked up now for Bennett, who's getting profiled. He's got 2 goals. Still on the hat trick. Watch Bennett again. He's put. Oh, I thought he almost did something there as it's picked up off the backhand. Thank goodness I didn't say anything. It's Tkachuk. Now works in behind the net. Tkachuk now back alongside for Erod as this goes to Aaron Ekblad. Ekblad now off the spin and turn. Now back around for Verhaeghe. Tkachuk still working in behind the cage for the right side. Verhaeghe off the spin and turn. He's going to get dispossessed. Good work there for Matthias Ekholm. That's why they picked him up a couple of seasons ago. Tkachuk, rolling puck. This one stays in. It goes back in now for the Edmonton defense. Trying to get this out again. It's a warbling vulcanized rubber right now. Finally goes back down the ice. But not far enough for icing. Kulikov now can start this one from left to right. Shot board is 43-30, but the next goal is going to win. As offsides, Jonah Gadjevich got a little too greedy.
Yeah, the Panthers, they want to get jumpy here, a few strikes ahead. I don't think it's Gadjevich, but one of the others. I think Jesper Boquist was a little bit ahead of the play. Wondering, what the hell? What hit me?
That's what I was thinking too, because again, he had a big push ahead, as Paul Maurice was saying the same thing. Chris Knobloch, again, a little more calm on his other side. Paul Maurice giving his exchanges as far as what they want for line combinations. Looks like I see Barkov back out there as we get the wide camera shot here on TNT. John Hunter with you alongside Alec Nava. I'll be taking this next part of the half of the OT, and then Alec will get set to close for the next 20 should we need double. Now, Reinhart will wrap us in around the end boards as Kulak closes him off. Adam Henrique now trying to join in toward the right side red line. Again, shot board 43-30. Edmonton out in front. They get home ice advantage this time around. That could make a difference here if this goes the distance. It's just game 1 today, though. We'll be back with you on the hockey side on Friday. Again, they're all about 8:15 Eastern puck drops. TV coverage started at 8 o'clock. Spin around for Nate Schmidt. Nate will power move off the one hand, bank pass, and this will be cleared in off the red. And Paul Maurice's squad in the midst of a change. Now we'll see what Edmonton can do. Kulak will throw this all the way down. This gets blocked by Skinner. He got to hold it enough. They didn't draw the whistle, so we press on. 3:30 left in the first OT. As Kulak now going to get his signs, make sure they're not crossed, and get their breakout play going. This one will be recollected across the Oilers logo by the Cats. Long shot in, stopped by Skinner. As this goes for the left side red line, bodies collide, and now the Panthers get an opportunity to recollect one more time. Seth Jones had the puck there for a moment. Connor McDavid able to get this from Corey Perry. Slowly put this around the embankment, try to find for Draisaitl, gets stick lifted, and this cannot be held at the blue line. And the fans will call for an icing. They will get one. It's Anton Lundell who was guilty.
With less than 3 minutes to go, this overtime has been a seesaw of 2 different periods, if you think it that way. The first half it was all Oilers, after the Panthers put on an early onslaught.
Mm-hmm.
But the second half, it's been mostly Panthers.
Yes, it has. Again, after those first 5 shots, I agree with you. It has been Panthers now on the end, and if the Oilers are able to get that middle, and we are going to do the draw again. I have to say, that's been about the 6th time the Edmonton Oilers have started with puck possession with an O-zone draw. They can't be happy with that.
6 times, you want to finish those chances off.
Lundell. Now try to get this again. RNH will win it. Here's a slapper. This one gets blocked. Back in behind the net of Bobrovsky, who has been excellent. Stuart Skinner, been much of the same. Bobrovsky faced a little bit more opportunities. Picked up now Marchand, as this will be thrown off the stick play to Skinner. Edmonton now starts with the puck possession on their own end. Somebody blows a tire on the back end, and this is just a terrible pass. That'll be iced. RNH, I'm not sure what he was doing. It's going to be a D-zone draw.
Look at what you gets very confident on the second line side. And now they cannot change.
So again, Friday night, June 6th, that'll be the site of Game 2 for Alec and I. Again, all these ones on the X Space, YouTube, and Twitch. And then we'll be back on the Monday side. No weekend games. I'm sure Alec will be busy with the NBA Finals. We'll get more of his schedule if we get toward the OT side of intermission. That's 2:34 dependent. RNH, this is won by the Cats. And we'll throw this one down deep. Bounces off some bodies. We'll see who gets to it now. Pinched in by Ekblad. Thrown back around for Bennett. Now an opportunity. Janmark off the spin around in his own end. Ekblad bouncing puck up in the air near the right side. Rolling. Collected by Ekblad off his skates. Edmonton might have something. Here's an opportunity. Backhand. Oh, what a save by Bobrovsky. We play on. It was a bouncing puck off a one-hand. I'm not even sure who got the shot. As this goes back now for Jake Wallman. And we look to go right to left again. Here's Podkolzin's pass. Here's a good wrister. That would be closed out by the blocker hand of Bobrovsky. And now Tomas Nosek. Try to flip this one off the glass. This goes into the players' bench. And are we going to get anything more is the question. I don't think so.
Well, I don't know.
We are.
Yes, we are. It went over the glass, and now the Oilers have a chance to make the Panthers play. I know this is playing up exactly like Game 4 between the Oilers and Kings. There's no 6-20-2 for delay.
Unbelievable.
Excellent chances by Evan Bouchard on the breakout as he made a move around the Panther defense. Yes, it went over the glass for Nosek, and everyone, including the fans, saw it. It was clear and obvious.
You're right, and I thank you for the bailout for Evan Bouchard. That was the one that made the move, and you're absolutely right. Tomas Nosek, I thought he might have kissed the bench. No, he throws it just over. It's a power play in OT, and this will carry over for 17 seconds, but Alec and I already said it twice. This is our third time's the charm here for Edmonton. They've got the score here, and you're not going to get a better opportunity. You're in overtime. McDavid. Now Klingberg's also out there. I don't know about that. This is just picked up now for RNH. Bouchard will slow this one down toward the right side. Bouchard gets it back off a skate. McDavid, he elects for the pass. Florida trying to keep them on the outside. Back to Evans. Already got 6 shots in this game. McDavid, ripper. And that one, I'm not sure what it hit, but it gets a whistle. 120 left. That was mean intentions for 97 on that wrister.
Might have bounced off of the goalpost and then up and out of play. Corey Perry did have some choice words for Sam Reinhart. I thought that McDavid was hoping for a deflection from Perry when he was shooting that one from the distance. Good sequence.
That might have been one of the fastest wrist shots I've seen in a while. I'm not surprised that it was Connor McDavid that let it go. I want to see that more, especially in this power play. I know he likes to be that playmaker. This time he's going to be on the off end of the bumpers. So what that means is if Draisaitl can win it, he can draw right back to McDavid for a quick shot. They are really pressed, and we got to do the draw yet again. And it seems like Edmonton's got their designs of what they want, but they keep just blowing the whistle dead.
Yeah, they have everything planned out. They have the designs of what to look. They have the looks planned out. The question is that now they need to capitalize.
So now McDavid's going to get set to take this draw, not Draisaitl this time around. 1:20 left to go in the OT. Should we need it all? Still tied at 3, but Edmonton's got a power play. As this one's flipped in off the glass, Bouchard gets a big paw on it. He'll back skate. 1:05 now left to go in this OT. Sudden death in game one. Here's an opportunity, McDavid. He'll idle. Now a drop from RNH as this one's picked off. They try to find Bouchard. Cats, Forsling sent it in, stopped by Skinner. Panthers will go for their change and try to make sure they stay fresh. They need to kill it. Edmonton, all they need to do is score, take a 1-0 series advantage. McDavid through the seams. He lets it go to the left side dot for RNH. Here's the drop. Bouchard goes back to RNH. Toward the left side dot and across the bumper. Good touch pass. Wide open. Scores! It's Draisaitl on a 1T.
The most dangerous combination, McDavid and Draisaitl. We know about how the Oilers typically have game ones as a feel-off game. They haven't won a lot in game ones in the McDavid era. But Draisaitl, that's his third playoff overtime goal of the postseason. Second one on the power play. Guess who set it up? It is McDavid. You get wide open in his slot, you do good things happen. Draisaitl gets open down low. I know I would typically anticipate the Oilers to lose the game one because of their propensity of having game one as a feel-off game. They didn't take it as such, and they had Paul Maurice his first L when leading after any period in a playoff game as head coach of the Florida Panthers. The comeback complete, the first multi-goal comeback for the Oilers in this postseason, and of course, Draisaitl, one-timer, low slot, McDavid's outstretched pass with Corey Perry setting him up right by through Aleksander Barkov, the best defensive forward in the NHL, just won a Selke. He went down low for the block. McDavid reads it, elevates it above his stick, and that's all she wrote here at Rogers.
That was A++ puck movement. And alongside for Perry, McDavid, as you said, Barkov tries to cut off the play. He cannot do so, and if he elects to leave, that's going to leave Draisaitl wide open, as it was in the first at 1:08, and now in OT. Edmonton wins. They take game one in overtime 4-3. If he doesn't make that play, Draisaitl is going to be wide open on that back door to slam home a 1T, and that's exactly what he did.
It's basically pick your poison.
Yeah.
You don't have much to do if you're Aleksander Barkov. If you play the pass, Leon Draisaitl could find a slam dunk. Or this one might not even be a layup. Never mind a layup. This was a pure slam dunk for Draisaitl. Even though Bobrovsky was excellent in this OT, we know that the difference was these two superstars. We know they are the first and third best players in the NHL. I'm ranking Draisaitl at number 3, and I'm confident in that with the way that he's played over the last few seasons.
Yeah.
We know they are on a mission, and they will stop at nothing to achieve the ultimate goal.
Well, I said it a little bit, maybe even in the second period, that I think that game one is more important for the Oilers. This is a must-get. Again, they got the power play, and the only power play they were going to get was the one that had to be called. Tomas Nosek has to feel sick to his stomach throwing that one over the glass, but what can you do? Sometimes you make a mistake, and a mistake turns into a berry, and that's what Draisaitl did. He gets the second of the game. The Oilers win 4-3. That's going to set up, and I can't believe I'm saying this, a must-win for the Cats on Friday. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but if the Oilers go up 2-0, they're already 6-3 on the road during this postseason. They would put themselves in the driver's seat.
Combined with that, with the fact that the Panthers are 4-3 at home, that could play right to the Oilers' advantage. That's just the third loss from the Panthers on the road. And the Oilers securing a home ice advantage is oh so important.
Yes, it is. Alec, what an incredible game we were treated to. I'm glad that we got a game like that. I don't know if Friday is going to hold up, but at least we can enjoy this one today. Edmonton takes a big win. They win 4-3 in this OT. I'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, see you Friday, John. Let's go. You can take your hit product from table to shelf.
4-3 is your final in OT. Leon Draisaitl plays the hero. That was an excellent, excellent hockey game. And we'll see what happens on Friday because you know what? That actually might be the game of the series. I know it's just game one, and it might be a lot to say early, but that's how good it was. See you Friday. Peace.